Hello, it's me, Ariza Gaming, and today I'm doing a tier list of all of the Jokers in Balatro for Gold Stakes difficulty. I've played quite a few Balatro Gold Stakes runs on YouTube. We've done one on each different deck, and I just wanted to share my thoughts on which Jokers I like to pick up in the early game and to hold on to the late game, which Jokers I find useful, which Jokers I think could potentially be traps on Gold Stake in particular, and just generally sharing my thoughts on my experiences. We've almost unlocked all of the gold stickers. There's a few Jokers that we haven't actually beaten gold stakes with yet, and they're probably going in D tier. But yeah, let's start with the plus Mult Jokers. I usually look to pick up a Joker that adds Mult to my score right at the start, because the scaling on gold stakes initially goes up by quite a lot. So this, I find, a pretty efficient way of just starting the run, and then I can find the other things like chips, times Mult, economy, consistency. I can find all of that stuff later. So we're going to start with the plus Mult. So the first Joker I'm going to talk about is the Abstract Joker. This guy is fairly straightforward. He gives you +3 Mult for every Joker you have. If you pick him up early on, +3 is usually enough to help get you over the first couple of lines. And then he does scale a little bit on his own as you inevitably pick up the rest of your Jokers. Particularly good on black deck, where you can get an extra Joker slot, or the Anaglyph deck, where you pick up a load of negative tags, potentially. Does cap quite early, but that's fine. He gets you through the early game. You might not hold on to him all the way until the mid game, but generally, I pick this guy up a lot. He's one of my most consistently picked Jokers, so I'm going to put him in A tier. The Boot is next. This guy gives you +2 Mult for every $5 that you're holding on to. I like this guy as well. It lets you turn your economy Jokers into plus Mult contributors. And if you need to spend your money to find an out or to do something else, like manipulate your deck, you can. And this guy decreases in value, but it's not going to go all the way back to 0 unless all your money goes back to 0. It's very powerful if you find the interest vouchers in particular, or you have a deck that's going to help you acquire more money faster. One thing I would say is it's kind of difficult to get rolling initially. This is kind of like a win more guy. Often you might find this guy too early for it to be really useful, and that can kind of trap you into holding onto your money instead of actually using it to build your deck and get to the point where you can get other Jokers and win with your run. I'm actually going to put this guy in B. I don't always go with it, but it has definitely saved me on a few runs, not to be overlooked. Next, we've got Erosion. So this guy gains +4 Mult for every card below your starting deck count. So normally that's 52 cards, but on the abandoned deck it starts at 40 cards. So unfortunately, you're not going to get to just cheese out +48 Mult off the bat with this Erosion guy. It's pretty good if you can actually consistently manipulate your deck. If you can get a lot of Hanged Man tarot cards, or perhaps you've got another Joker like the trading card, it could be worth a lot. But again, I'm going to put this guy in B. It's quite hard to get rolling off the bat, and again, it feels a bit more like a win more Joker. You can trap yourself into spending more money than you have, trying to get this guy off the ground. Like if you're buying a load of Arcana packs, and then they don't actually have the tarot cards to let you manipulate your deck. You don't find any Hangmans or any Jokers that let you delete cards. It just turns out to be a bit useless. So again, I think I'm going to put him in B tier. Next, we've got the Flash card, Mr. JJ. So, I like this guy a lot. He gains +2 Mult every time you reroll in the shop. If you find the reroll voucher, this guy can get pretty good pretty quickly. If you also find Chaos the Clown, the Joker that gives you a free reroll, this is basically a +2 Mult every round as well. So, that's pretty good. But again, the issue is, you need to have the money to start scaling him. He's not going to save you initially. All of these guys can give you enough plus Mult to win the game. And I think they're pretty good. I think I would probably put him above the Boot and Erosion, because you're spending... What you want to do with this guy, you want to spend the money re-rolling when you would anyways. You don't want to re-roll just for this guy. But if you have plenty of money and you're doing lots of re-rolls, this guy gives you a lot of extra Mult, and he can scale up very quickly, and you're still spending the money on something useful. So, you know, I think I'm going to put this guy in A tier, actually. I think among the scaling plus Mult Jokers, I think he's probably one of the better ones. Next, we've got the Ceremonial Dagger. So this guy gains Mult equal to double the sell value of whatever Joker it eats to the right. This guy can be pretty good. You do, again, need economy to actually get him going, because you need money to spend on the Jokers. But here's the thing, on Gold Stake, you actually find a lot of rental jokers. They only cost $1, and yes, they cost you $3 per round at the end. But what you would do is you'd buy a rental early, this guy would eat it and get the free +2 mult, and you only spent $1, so that's pretty good value. So on Gold Stake specifically, this guy can get off the ground a little bit easier than usual. Riff Raff is also a really good combo with this. When you're using a dagger, you are going to have one of your Joker slots or Jokers to be stabbed until it's big enough, at which point you can just put it on the right and not worry about it. But bear in mind that if you put this guy to the left of your X-Mult Joker, that's gonna multiply your mult, it will eat it if it's not eternal. So make sure that if you're doing this with X-Mult Jokers, it's either on the right or it's on the left and you've got an eternal. Otherwise, you're using up a Joker slot to block the dagger. I think it's a lot of manipulation. You can screw it up quite easily on Gold Stake as well if you're concentrating on other things. So I think I'm going to put it in B tier. I'm going to put it just below the boot. Then we've got the red card. So this guy gives you +3 mult every time you actually skip a booster pack. So this is bizarre. Why would you skip a booster pack? Well, again, it's just if you have more money. If you have more money, you can buy all the booster packs in the shop. And if you find something useful there, great. Is it more useful than +3 mult every hand? If not, then just skip it and you get to give the guy the mult instead. It's pretty good. I wouldn't buy booster packs just to skip for the mult. It's not a huge reward, but considering it's a common as well, that's actually it's like if you find this early and you get the money from some economy jokers, you can scale this guy up pretty quickly, and it's quite consistent to be able to find it because it's a common. Just above the boot, because again, you're spending the money. You're spending the money, and you're either getting something or this guy is getting boosted. Whereas with this guy, you have to hold on to the money. So the trousers, the spare trousers, every time you play a 2-pair or a hand that contains a 2-pair, this guy gains 2 mult. This guy is like I think the gold standard probably of scaling mult jokers, and if you find him at the start of the run, which I've done quite a lot, usually it results in a 1 run. 2 pairs are quite consistent hand to play, even on Gold Stake. You can scale it up with the planet cards and get a lot of chips on that. With just the Uranus planet card, it's +20 chips per card. It's not bad. If you can play full houses, it still works on that. If you can play flush houses, it still works on that. It's uncommon, so you're not going to be able to find it super consistently, but if you do, it could really turn out well. And it's rewarding you for just playing a strategy that you'd probably potentially be playing anyways. So there's not really a lot of opportunity cost to using it. So I'm going to put it in A tier. I think it's one of the stronger scaling plus mult jokers. Next we've got the bus. This is a common. Basically every hand you play without a face card, Jack, Queen, King, like it says on the card, it gives you +1 mult. And if you do play a face card, then it resets to 0. Now, on the face, this is quite good. And I am going to put it in A tier, because again, if you find it early on, which you're quite likely to because it's a common, +1 mult per hand is pretty good. Now, to get this going early, you're going to have to play all your hands, play a load of high cards, and then play the hand that you want to score the most points. And then you can basically get it getting +4 mult per ante, but then it's costing you the money that you would otherwise get from saving your extra hands, the $1 per hand. I think I'm still going to put it in A tier over the red card, because you can get this off the ground immediately. It doesn't depend on how much money you have. But I would advise, if you're scaling this up, prioritize look for economy jokers so that you can also still get your interest while scaling up. And then you can stop playing every hand once you've got enough plus mult in here that it doesn't need to scale any further. Next we've got the Swashbuckler. This guy gains mult based on the cell value of the other jokers you have. So it gets +1 mult per cell value. It's kind of like Abstract. If you've got a lot of jokers, it can get a lot of value, and especially if you've got a lot of rare or potentially legendary jokers with additions, it scales quite well off of that. Swashbuckler Egg is also a really good combo. The egg gains 3 cell value every turn, and you're often wanting to hang on to it for extra value on your Temperance. So this guy turns that extra value into plus mult as well. It combos really well with the gift card if you find that, which gives every consumable you have +1 cell value. It's a bit less mult early on than the Abstract Joker, unless you're starting with a cooked setup. But, I mean, getting random additions, it's still pretty much as much value as Abstract Joker a lot of the time, and it has the potential to go higher. I think it still does deserve to go in A tier. It's pretty good in my opinion. Supernova, I think this is probably one of the strongest ones. It gives you +1 mult every time the hand that you're playing has been played. So, similarly to the bus, you want to play every hand if you're playing this, and you're probably wanting to do a hand that you could play every round consistently. So that's either high card or pair, probably. Or if you're doing some deck manipulation, maybe flushes if you're on the checkered deck, maybe 3 of a kind, maybe 2 pair. Probably pair or high card. But this guy fills out the mult. The planet cards, like the Mercury and the Pluto, can give you chips. And then this guy gives you the extra mult. This guy kind of makes high card builds viable, I think, when you're going up to gold stakes. It's very helpful for that, and it's a common, so you find it right away. The Fortune Teller. This guy gains +1 mult for every tarot card you've activated. Again, I think this guy's really good. He doesn't start as high as the Abstract Joker, and if you find him right at the start before you've used any tarot cards, he can be pretty bad. Like, because late game, you're probably getting the economy going, that you buy and activate a lot of tarot cards. And if you get an Emperor, there's 3 procs of this guy who are using them all. So I think he's pretty good, but the issue is, yeah, like, initially, he's not going to be very helpful. So I don't think he's quite as good as these guys. Often, when he's really high in value, either you're already in a position where you're winning because you've activated all the tarot cards, or you've got a build going where it's not really depending on the +1 mult in your hand. So I think this guy is going to go in B tier, just because he's not as helpful early on as some of these other guys can be. Next, we've got Shoot the Moon. I think this guy is pretty underrated. It gives you +13 mult per queen held in hand. So it is a specific card that you need held in hand, but it's a lot of mult. Basically, if you find 1 queen, you're set early on, and then later on you can make your queen steal to get more mult from that. +13 and then the times 1.5, and then later on, maybe if you find a Baron, you can straight throw queens into kings and keep the train going. So it's not bad. It does mean you're not playing the face card. If you're doing this with a bus, that could be useful, but then you got 2+ Mult Jokers, so that's kind of irrelevant. I think it's okay. I don't think I would put it in A tier. I think it's probably going to go B tier because it's a lot of immediate value, and it can save you if you find it early. It will save you for a while. +13 is big. You can add more queens to your deck. And then eventually, once you've got all the queens, perhaps you transition from this guy to someone else. I think it's a very useful transitionary piece, so I'm gonna put him in B tier. Then we've got all the Mult Jokers that give a flat amount of plus mult based on what hand you're playing. That amount will be up here somewhere. So we've got a few different ones. These guys, I don't think in general are very good. They will help you out early on, but they don't scale at all. And the reason I'm not going to rank these guys as high as the other guys is they lock you into a specific hand. The 2-pair locking you into a specific hand is pretty good because it consistently plus mult scales, and it can scale very quickly if you're playing a lot of 2 pairs or full houses. But these guys just flat. And you don't want to lock yourself into that for a flat benefit. But again, they do save you early on. So I think I would put the pair, the flush, the 2-pair guy over here. I think these are the ones that you're most likely to be proccing consistently. And then I'd probably put the 3 of a kind and the straight guy over here, because you're probably not proccing them as consistently. I can see that they are helpful occasionally in the early game, but you're probably not going to be holding on to these guys into the late game unless you're specifically trying to stick with them, because the plus flat mult that's not scaling at all is just not appealing at that point, in my opinion. So these guys will get to hang out in C tier. Next, we've got Even Steven. So this guy gives your even cards +4 mult when they're played. So this is a guy where if you're re-triggering your jokers, you can increase the effectiveness of this guy quite a lot. If you've got a Hanging Chandler 4, suddenly you've got 3 procs of this guy that's +12 mult. So it adds the mult before it gets multiplied by other jokers, like X-Mult Jokers in your hand, like Ancient Joker, Bloodstone, etc., which can be pretty helpful. I think he's pretty good. I think I put him in B tier as well. This will save you early on. I think I'm going to put him ahead of the Fortune Teller, because it will save you early on. You can just play hands full of even cards. 10s, 8s, 6s, 4s, and 2s. That's 5 out of 13 cards in the deck. 5 out of 13 ranks. So the odds of being able to make a hand with even cards specifically at any given time are pretty good. So I think he slots in pretty well ahead of the other guys. And late game, if you get a lot of re-triggers, he may still be worth holding on to. It might be enough plus mult for what you need late game with re-triggers. So yeah, he'll go there. Greed Joker is pretty interesting. he gains +1 mult every time you play a hand, and -1 mult every time you do a discard. Now, on gold stakes, you only have 2 discards to start with, so you're naturally going to be playing more hands than discarding if you're trying to max this guy out. Again, you're probably doing this with high card, probably doing this with pair, potentially. Quite similar to Supernova. The difference is, the Green Joker doesn't mind which specific your hand you're playing. The Supernova will lock you into a specific hand. But obviously he prevents you from using your discards. That can reduce your consistency quite a lot. Also, the actual round you get him where he starts at +0, you can still do your discards. But obviously not being able to use stuff like purple seals without ruining your plus mult is not great. It's only -1 mult per discard though, so it probably still is worth discarding your purple seals. It's a little bit of anti-synergy though, and purple seals are very powerful. I think because of the purple seals, I'm going to put him at the bottom of A tier, but I think he's better than some of the other plus mult scaling jokers over here. And he's common, so he's quite consistent. So I think that'll go there. Mystic Summit, this guy's great. He gives you +15 mult, but you have to have used all your discards. But that's fine, because you're probably using your discards anyways. +15 is huge early game, and it's unconditional early game. There's no real downside to using all of your discards. You've just got to make sure that you do actually do it, but that's fine. I think I'm probably going to put him here ahead of the Abstract Joker, because he can carry for quite a while. Raised Fist. So this one's interesting. It gives you double the lowest rank held in hand as plus mult added to your hand. This is pretty interesting, because, again, that applies before stuff like the photograph, if you're multiplying cards played in hand. So this guy's going to trigger before all of your plus mult jokers, your X mult in hand jokers, and your X mult jokers. So the mult gets in there a bit faster. The only issue is, you do have to gradually get rid of all the low ranks of your deck to consistently get this guy at a high value. But even if you've got a 2 in your hand, that's still +4 mult. It's still going to save you early on. It's pretty good. I think I'm going to put it slightly above Abstract Joker, specifically because it helps out with the photograph shenanigans as well. Any guesses as to where Hanging Chad and photograph are going, guys? Misprint. This guy is the random mult guy. He gives you a random mult between, I think it's +0 and +23. I think it's +23. But yeah, pretty good at saving you early on. The only issue is it can fail. Like, if it only gives you the +1 or the +0 on the hand that you need the mult for, it's not good. It's usually going to pay off, but you can't really rely on it. So I think I'd probably put him in the B tier. Like, if you don't find anything else, it's probably worth picking up at the start, but it can let you down, which is obviously not good on gold stakes. Popcorn. This guy just gives you +20 mult, so that's good. But it loses 4 mult every round. So you can play lots of hands in a round, but it just loses -4 every round. Obviously, it doesn't matter if it's perishable, because it's going to perish on its own anyways. Just make sure you sell it before it goes. While it's at the +4 mult, sell it before you play your final hand where it's not doing anything. You can get some money back. It's pretty good. Getting the sticker on it is annoying, because it's a consumable, and you're probably not going to have that many free slots available late game for jokers. But it will save you in the early game, and that's all you really need. I'm probably going to put him... here. It's quite rare that I don't pick up a popcorn. Even mid-game, +20 for like a hand can be pretty good. And if you find something better, you can trade it out, and if not, you can just sell it later. Pretty useful guy. Similarly here, we've got the banana, the Gross Michelle. Gives you +15 mult. And again, it's completely independent of hands. I love it when the jokers are independent of what hands you play, because that way you don't have to commit yourself to a strategy for a low payoff. But it does have a 1 in 6 chance of expiring after every round. This is ultimately a good thing, because there's a payoff to this. It's the Cavendish banana, which gives you X mult. So pretty good for plus mult. Will eventually disappear. I don't think there's many circumstances where I won't pick up the banana if I see it. If it's perishable, 1 in 6 chance, it's usually going to perish before... it's usually going to go extinct before it perishes. That's my general view of it. So the flat value is great. Has a great payoff if you can find a Cavendish later. Overall, would recommend banana. Next, we've got the Half Joker. This guy gives you plus 20 mult, but your hand has to have 3 cards or less in it. I don't like this guy that much. I mean, plus 20 mult is obviously very strong. This guy will carry you early on. But limiting yourself to playing only 3 cards in hand means your hand scaling is going to be that strong with the planet cards. 3 of a kind is going to be the best you can do. Plus 20 mult, plus 20 chips, plus 2 mult per planet card is okay. But it's not ideal late game. But this guy does save you early on. And the main issue I see with this guy as well is if you're trying to cycle through your deck to find specific cards that are valuable, like blue seals, gold cards, these are very important on gold stakes for improving the consistency of your deck. You're less likely to find them when you're using the Half Joker because you're not playing 5 cards every hand. But it's a lot of value. I can't really deny that. I think I would probably put him in A tier again. Usually I'll pick him up at the start of the run and then ditch him once I want to start playing bigger hands. Otherwise, he can stick around for quite a while, I've noticed. Then we've got the regular Jimbo. I'm not going to pretend this guy's amazing. He is only plus 4 mult, but the plus 4 mult is completely unconditional. It's not going to expire. It doesn't require any variables. It's always there for you. You find him early on. He's pretty good. He gets to be the top of C tier. Obviously, you're not keeping him forever, but he will save you early on if you find him. Also, he's dirt cheap. He's only $2, so you just sell him for $1, and there's not really that much opportunity cost of picking him up compared to the other common jokers, which can cost like $4 to $6 or $3 to $6. Less initial investment is great, especially if you don't have a lot of money early on. He doesn't save you for that long because he's only plus 4 mult, so don't. I'm not going to over exaggerate his value, but pretty useful for starting up some runs. Definitely not D tier. Smiley Face, I like this guy a lot. Your played face cards get plus 5 mult. So, similar to Even Steven, it's only 3 out of 13 ranks, but face cards get a lot of buffs from various different jokers. They also give you a lot of chips. The even cards give you less chips generally. I think it's pretty good. If you're re-triggering your face cards a lot, or if you're doing stuff with Photograph, again, that's exclusive to face cards. You're probably using this for Photograph if you're keeping it late game. This will save you early game. Just play full houses of face cards and it'll last for a while. And then get the Photograph. You can get the X-Mult on this. Plus 5, then times 2, and then repeat that twice with the Hanging Chad. That's going to get you a lot of value if you don't have a lot of base hand strength. This guy gives you the plus mult to get the Photo Chad combo really working. So yeah, I like him a lot. I think I'm probably going to put him about here. I think he's probably one of the better plus mult played cards jokers. We've got a few of them coming up here actually. We've got the Onyx Agate. This is an uncommon. This gives you plus 8 mult per club played. So plus 8 is a lot. Club flushes become very strong if you find this guy early. Again, if you're multiplying it up with the Photograph, it adds before the Photograph multiplies, which can be very powerful. I think it's pretty good. Obviously, finding him is a bit less consistent, but we have frequently used this guy to win. I'm probably gonna put him below the Smiley Face because you find this guy more often, and you're often aiming to build face card stuff anyways, or occasionally, anyways. It depends. If you find a face card debuffing boss early on, and you know he's not going to show up again, then you can commit quite safely to face cards, and I found that's been pretty helpful. So that's why I'm putting Smiley Face ahead of Onyx Agate, but it's pretty close. The payoff from this guy is bigger as well. And it's quite easy to get more clubs in your deck, so I like this guy. Then we've got the Sinful Jokers. These 4 guys give you plus 3 mult per played card of a suit in your hand. So plus 3 is obviously a lot less than plus 8. But it is common, and again, it still affects all of the cards of the suit. I'm going to put the club guy ahead of the others. I'm going to put these guys in C tier, because locking yourself into flushes early on is great. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put them in B tier. I'm going to put them at like the bottom of B tier. Locking yourself into flushes isn't great if you're trying to actually win, but early on, it's enough plus mult to survive, and you could transition into flushes to survive into the mid game with these guys. But it's not a viable late game plan. Late game flush runs can be quite hard to get like fully past the final bosses, either because you found a boss that's disabled the suit, or just because the payoff of flush scaling isn't that high. It's only plus 15 chips and plus 2 mult per planet card. So I'm not a huge fan of flushes late game, but it does help you survive early on. I'm going to put the club guy ahead of the other guys because Onyx Agate is obviously a natural transition point with that strategy. You can even combine them if you really want. Diamonds are going to put fairly low because the rough gem is not very good. So I probably wouldn't generally build around diamonds. Heart guy is pretty good, and similarly the spade guy is pretty good because you would combine these guys with bloodstone and arrowhead if you were taking them into the late game. And I'll talk more about those guys in a minute. But again, plus mult per card and then X mult per card is quite strong. So that's why I like the hearts guy more. We have the Fibonacci. So this guy gives you +8 mult on aces, 2s, 3s, 5, and 8s. I like the Fibonacci. If you're playing straights, ace 2, 3, 4, 5, this guy gets a lot of plus mult. If you're playing full houses with these cards, he gets a lot of plus mult. If you're manipulating your entire deck to just 2s for Wee Joker for all the chips, it's a lot of extra mult. There's a lot of circumstances where Fibonacci comes in handy, and he doesn't lock you into a suit. Obviously, you don't have the face card synergy, but you do have the hack synergy on the 2s, the 3s, and the 5s. So I think I'm actually probably going to put him above Smiley Face. It's quite a big payoff, and there's a lot of different circumstances where it comes in handy. Again, if you find it early, it will save you the start without any major restrictions. It gives you a goal with your deck building. If you want to pivot away from face cards, then you can use strength to promote your kings to aces, and that's not bad. 8s exist. It's fine. I think it's probably one of the better plus mult in hand jokers. Next we've got the Scholar. So he gives your aces +20 chips and +4 mult. So this guy's great if you're playing erratic deck and you have a load of aces. But it's 1 out of 13 ranks. The chances of you actually drawing the aces are not super high, unless you manipulate your deck entirely around building them. And also, it's only +4 mult. Yes, you get the extra chips, but it's not necessarily going to save you in the mid-game, like some other cards that commit to block you into a specific card are, like the Shoot the Moon. Shoot the Moon is +13 mult. That's a large payout for holding it in hand. +4 mult is not great. The chips don't matter that much, because aces already give you a lot of chips. I'm not a huge fan of the Scholar. I think he's going pretty low down here. Because it's just quite unlikely you're going to proc him. Quite unlikely he's going to save... I mean, he will save you early on. But you've got to find the aces. I think most of the time I would rather just have regular Jimbo than the Scholar. So, Walkie-Talkie. So, Walkie-Talkie is better. It's only +10 chips. It's still +4 mult. But it's +10 chips and +4 mult for 4s and 10s. 10-4. 4s get re-triggered by hack. If you find hack, you can turn this into +20 chips, +8 mult. It's not bad. I still don't think it's very good, but I don't think it's awful. And it's more likely to help you in the early game than the Scholar. So I think it's going to go above Jimbo. Jimbo is going to breach the gap between these two similar chips and mult jokers. But yeah, that's all the jokers that give you flat plus mult in various circumstances. That's my opinions on them. Right, so now let's talk about plus chips jokers. I've got a few different ones down here. I've also got some miscellaneous jokers that kind of mostly give you plus chips. So Arrowhead. This guy gives you +50 chips per played spade. That's a lot of chips. And if you're re-triggering your cards with Hack, with Sock and Buskin, with Hanging Chad, anything like that, it's a lot of chips. This is so much chips that it can probably help you win on Plasma Deck. We have done this. We won on Plasma Deck with this guy. That wasn't on stream, unfortunately. But if you're playing flushes, flushes don't scale very well with chips because the planet cards don't give you a lot. This guy does give you the chips to make that sort of work and make it kind of viable. I think I'm going to put him in B tier. So here's the rub about plus chips. It generally doesn't immediately save you in the early mid-game. You still need the plus mult first. But once you've got the plus mult, if you're not finding X mult, adding to your chips can get you into the mid-game a bit better. So in that context, I think Arrowhead's pretty good. Probably put him above these guys. We've got the banner here. The banner gives you plus 30 chips for every discard you haven't used. So I don't like this guy. It's not a lot of chips, and you only have 2 discards of Gold Stake, so the payout is 60 chips, unless you get the discard vouchers that give you more. We've got Mary Andy who's giving you more discards, but then that's penalizing your hand size, and you're not using a discard, so that's a trap. That's bait. Plus 60 chips is not going to save you. If plus 60 chips is saving you, your plan's not very good. I'm going to put him in C tier because I don't think it's outright bait on its own. Again, like, you don't have to spend the discards. If you're doing high card pair stuff, it's probably fine. But like, it is chips in those scenarios, so it's okay mid game. But you're really not taking this guy late game a lot of the time. Got the blue Joker. So this guy gives you plus 2 chips for every card remaining in your deck. So as you play cards from your deck, or you discard them, the amount of chips this guy scores every hand gets smaller. But it does start out at 104 chips. And if you're just playing like a single high card, this could be a lot of chips per hand. Doesn't necessarily restrict you, just the payout gets worse and worse. I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's as good as Arrowhead. The payout isn't quite as high, but it's not really restricted by what you're doing at all. So I think it's... I like it a lot. Pretty good for those high card pair builds, just to get them off the ground a little bit. But again, you need a plus malt guy to help out with that. He's part of the puzzle. We have done some runs where we've had literally a plus chips, a plus malt, and an X malt joker, and that's it. And he's certainly one of the chips jokers you can use to get there, so I'm going to put him there. The bull gives you 2. It gives you 2 chips for every dollar you have saved up. So it's kind of like the boot in that respect. This guy, single-handedly, can win you plasma deck gold stakes attempts. If you find him early and you save up all your money, he could give you enough chips that if you can duplicate him, or you can get the burglar to play a lot of hands, it's enough chips that you'll probably be able to get to late game with this guy. So that's quite strong. But again, you're not able to spend the money. I find that this guy is relevant more often than the boot generally, because I think there are better plus malt sources for scaling, especially economy-based plus malt sources. There's not really that much for chips, so I think this guy goes a bit higher. I'm probably gonna put him below the blue Joker, because it's not very often. We don't often pick him up, but if we don't find a blue seal, we've got a lot of planet scaling. We've got the malt, but we haven't got the chips. He's not awful, but again, not spending the money is kind of annoying. Next, we've got the castle. So this guy is pretty interesting. He gives you plus 3 chips for every card of a certain suit you discard, and the suit changes every round based on what's in your deck. So this guy's pretty good. So he's plus scaling chips based on discards, which you might be doing already. Generally, I find he's pretty good at flush builds, because you're discarding like a suit you don't want to find a suit that you do want. That's not bad. If you have Mary Andy, you're using those discards, you're getting a lot of scaling on this guy. Again, this guy can help you out a lot in Plasma Deck if you find him early. The issue is, if you don't find it early, it's not going to get big enough to matter at all. I think I'm going to put him ahead of the other Chips Jokers. I think the Chips Jokers are all going to go in their little wodge here at the moment. If you find it early, it can be a win con, because you can get it big enough to the point where it's like plus 200, 300 chips, and then you can just do whatever you want, and it's helping out the whole time. But the issue is the chips aren't really helping you that much early game. I think I'm going to put him higher than these guys. Then we've got the guys down here, the clever guys, whatever they're called. I don't think these guys are as helpful as their plus malt variants, because the plus chips aren't really saving you that much early on. They might help you survive an extra blind or two. Plasma Deck, again, they're very helpful, because you mostly want chips when you're doing that on gold stakes, unless you're doing a cooked run and you just get a lot of X malt. But I don't think they're that great. You're more likely to hold on to these guys late game than the plus malt guys, because even once you've got a load of malt, your chips still aren't going to be that high, and this might be the source of chips you need to win. So I'm actually going to flip it. I'm gonna flip it based on which ones give you the higher payouts. If you are playing a lot of planet cards, obviously it's good, because the straights planet card at plus 30 chips is huge, as is the plus 3 malt. But if you don't happen to find a lot of them, this guy can help you out at the start while you're finding them as well. And again, it helps a bit with the flush scaling as well, because the flush chip scaling is very weak. Yeah, I don't think they're as good in general as the Mult Jokers, because you don't want to rely on them at all, really, for late game. These guys help you out more early. These guys help you out more mid-game. That's my assessment of it. So next we have the Hiker. I'm not a huge fan of this guy. So he gives played cards +5 chips after they're played. So he's not helping you on the hand that you play, he's helping you on the future rounds, because you're not going to redraw those cards that you played within the round either. +5's not bad. I think he's pretty good if you get re-triggers, such as Hanging Chad, Sock and Buskin, Hack, etc. Or you are playing a lot of the same cards over and over again. Like if you're trying to play a specific hand every time, like 4 of a kinds, straight flushes, and you can get the chips very high on specific cards and then re-trigger them, it could be pretty good. But it's definitely a combo piece. It's not going to win you the game on its own, and there are often times where he just doesn't do enough, and then you just don't really get any value from him. That being said, the cards keep the chip values after you've sold or removed the Hiker. So it is permanent value, and you can trade him out for a more useful Joker later on, like a lot of the other transitionary Jokers. So I think I'm going to put him below the other chips guys, but still pretty high up the list overall. Speaking of disappearing, we've got the Ice Cream. This guy gives you just +100 chips, and then it decreases by 5 every hand you play. I don't think this guy's as good as the Popcorn. He'll save you very early on, and once you've got some plus mult, he's not bad in the mid-game either. But if you're playing a lot of hands, like if you're on Plasma Deck and you're playing a lot of hands, the chips disappear pretty quickly. So I don't think he's as good as the other plus immediate chips in that respect. I think it's probably pretty low on the list overall for chips Jokers. And also, if you are only playing one hand per round, it actually does last a lot longer than the Popcorn does. I'm going to put him next to the Blue Joker. I think they serve a lot of the same purpose. Similar sort of values, fixed chips without any real restrictions. You're eventually going to trade out later. The Blue Joker also loses value as you thin your deck with the Hanged Man, the trading card, etc. I think they're fairly similar in terms of overall value. Next, we've got the Marble Joker. This guy's kind of weird. So he adds a stone card to your deck every blind, after you select every blind. So this fills your deck up with stone cards pretty quickly. If you're doing a high card build, this is obviously great. If you're on Plasma Deck and you're requiring the chips from Stone Jokers, or from Stone cards, that's also pretty good. But it's making it harder to get to the combo pieces that you actually need to win. So it's not great because it's reducing the consistency of your deck to give you more chips. And those chips will only come in handy if you're playing a hand with the Stone cards. If you're playing straights, if you're playing flushes, if you're playing 5 of a kinds or flush 5s, you're not actually using this guy. You're not using the Stone cards at all. I think it's a bit more niche than the other cards that add other Jokers that add cards to your deck generally because of that. But it's very useful in Plasma Deck. So I think he goes in B tier. I think I'm going to put him at the bottom of B tier. It can kind of actively be a detriment, but you can pick him up, get a few stone cards, and then leave him after that. Also, synergizes very well with Hologram. Hologram, we'll get to Hologram later, but X-Mult for cards added to deck. This guy adds cards to deck consistently every blind. That's a very strong combo. And the stone cards give you chips too. So that can win you a game on its own, but relying on a combo of 2 uncommon Jokers is not ideal. Odd Todd, every odd card, aces included, gives you plus 31 chips. For a Gladiation for plus 30 chips. That's aces, 9s, 7s, 5s, and 3s. It's a little bit like Fibonacci, just with chips instead of mult. It's not a huge amount of chips. Very, very useful on the Plasma Deck, especially with re-triggers. This is one of the ways to win on Plasma Deck, but you do need the re-triggers for that to work. Probably a case where Scholar is pretty useful as well, actually. But I think it's more generally useful. 5 out of 13 ranks ain't bad. 3s and 5s can get re-triggered with Hack. That's solid transition tools. I think it's pretty good. I think I'll probably put him on the same level as Arrowhead. Obviously the payout is less, but it doesn't lock you into flushes. If you're playing a straight, you're getting 3 of these guys to proc anyways. He's common, so you can find him consistently. I think it's pretty good. For a lot of the same reasons that Arrowhead is good. But yes, more versatile because you're not relying on the flush. I like it. Next, we've got the runner. This guy gains 15 chips every time you play a straight, and those are permanent chips. But even once if you play like say 20 straights in a game and you get 300 chips on this guy, you can stop playing straights. And you're still gonna have the plus 300 chips. I think this guy's a really good source of plus chips. You do have to play the straights to get them off the ground. You're probably gonna struggle to play more than one straight at a time unless you've got stuff consistency tools like shortcut, like Four Fingers. This is also very good in general because straight scaling is great. It gives you plus 3 mult per planet card. The straight mult cards are also pretty good for X mult. And you don't have it benefits all of your hands, not just the straights. So I think I'm actually probably going to put him. Yeah, I am going to put him in A tier. I think I'm going to put him just below the castle. The castle is a similar level of payout, but it's less restrictive. So I think the castle definitely gets the win there. But runner can definitely get you a win as in the right circumstances. If you find it early. If you don't find it early, it's rubbish. But a lot of these plus scaling jokers are rubbish in that respect. So next, let's have a look at the scary face. This one gives you plus 30 chips per played face card. So if you're re-triggering your face cards, a photograph, that's pretty good. Obviously, the chips aren't getting multiplied, but it can... If you're not scaling your hands a lot in terms of planets, it can be a lot of chips. It can be effectively a ×2 in some circumstances like that. Early game, it can be quite good. Combined with Smiley Face, obviously, it's very good. I think it's probably one of the stronger chips jokers in general, just because of the potential for re-triggers. Again, that can sort of save you on Plasma Deck. It's 3 out of 13 ranks, which is great. You can combine it with Pareidolia, but I don't rate Pareidolia very highly. So I think it goes in a similar sort of place to Odd Todd and the Arrowhead. I think I generally lean on this guy more than Arrowhead because it's easy to lean on the face cards and on the flushes. But you probably do need some anti-boss technology if you're relying on Scary Face to win. Next, we've got the Square Joker. Here we go. Here's one that I'm actually going to put D tier. So I think this guy's actually bait. So he's like the Green Joker, and he's like the Supernova in that he scales up every hand you play. He gives you plus 4 chips for every hand you play with 4 chips. What's the issue with this? Well, it's not going to save you early on. You can probably play your first few hands early on if you find a good hand to end on, but it won't be a straight and it won't be a flush unless you get 4 fingers. So it does kind of restrict what you do a little bit. If you're playing 4 cards every turn, you're not playing 5, so you're probably cycling through your deck to find the cards you want to hold in hand less often, like the gold cards, the steel cards, blue seals, etc. And the payoff is very small. With 4 hands per turn, you're spending all of the money that you would have gotten from keeping your hands to get plus 16 chips per turn. It's not like the runner where it gives you plus 15 for just playing the one straight when you find it. It requires more investment, and the payoff, I just don't think it's that good. If you find it early on Plasma Deck, maybe. I mean, let's face it, you're playing a lot of hands to beat Plasma Deck anyways, so it's probably not the worst case for this. But generally, outside of Plasma Deck, I think it's just bait. It's not going to get you enough chips to actually win. It's going to deprive you of the money you actually need to build your deck and to get the consistency you want to actually win. I don't think it's good. So next we've got the Stone Joker. I don't think this guy's great. He gives you plus 25 chips per stone card in your deck. Obviously, this is a fantastic combo with the Marble Joker. No questions there. It's a lot of chips if you've got that combo specifically, or if you're duplicating a lot of stone cards, say with DNA or with the death cards. But you have to get the stone card first. This guy does not appear in the shop unless you have a stone card in your deck. But I haven't actually won with this guy yet on Gold State, because I've never found a situation where I've actually both had stone cards in my deck that I've actually been using to win with, and the chips from this guy would have been handy. But I just don't think he's very good for gold stakes. I think he's going to go in C tier. I think he's going to go in the top of C tier. He's a spiritual buddy of the Marble Joker. But again, if you find the combo, it's absolutely busted on Plasma Deck. But it's a fair bit of chips. It's a fair bit of chips if you find it. The stone cards in themselves, especially if you're re-triggering them, could be a good win con, especially if you're plus mult scaling for the high card. So I can see situations where this guy takes you over the edge to win, unlike this guy, which is why I think he deserves to be in C tier, even if you don't find him very often. Next, we've got the Stuntman. This guy's pretty weird. He gives you plus 250 chips flat, no questions asked, except he reduces your hand size by 2. So again, if you're playing high card, if you're playing pairs, it's pretty good. Not very good if you're playing anything else. Also, a fun wrinkle. If you're copying this guy with Blueprint or Brainstorm, they don't copy the hand size modifier. They just copy the chips. So this guy is... If you could find this guy and copy him on Plasma Deck, he's pretty much an instant win. But just be very careful about copying him with Ankh, because then that's going to take your hand size below 5, and then the Psychic auto-kills you, because you can't physically play 5 cards. So don't do that. Stuntman, Supernova, X-Mult. I think I'm probably going to actually put it in A tier. But the hand size is annoying, because it means you can't find your steel cards, you can't find your blue seals, you can't find your gold cards. So there is quite a bit of opportunity cost, but the flat payout is very large. So I think I'm going to put him there. There are circumstances where he's cooked us, but generally speaking, high priority to pick up early on if you find him. Sometimes late game as well. If you've got a Joker build that's giving you a lot of plus mult and X mult, but you don't actually have your planet scaling up, he can give you the chips you need to win. Like if you're only getting 100 chips per hand and you're getting like a load of mult, he can turn that into 350 chips. So he effectively becomes an X mult Joker at that point if you don't have the planet scaling. I don't know, I'm going to put him above these guys. He's pretty strong. He's a rare, so it's quite unlikely you're going to find him. We haven't actually found that many rare Jokers yet. We have another rare Joker coming up next with the Wii Joker. This guy gives you plus 8 chips every time you play a 2. And that stacks forever. Everyone on Reddit talks about how large they can get their Wiis. This guy can often end up being hundreds, if not thousands of chips. It's so much chips. If you've got 2s, if you're re-triggering them with Hack, if you're duplicating them with DNA, if you're getting the plus mult on them with Lucky Cards or the Empress, or if you're on Plasma Deck and you're just getting the plus chips with Hierophant, this guy could pretty much solo Plasma Deck. But the amount of chips you get off this guy is so high, I think he transcends the other Jokers here and he actually gets to be an S tier. Because it's so much chips in the right circumstances, it basically becomes X-Mult. And again, these are permanent chips. You don't have to play 2s to get the chips. Once you've got this guy scaled up, he's buffing every hand you play. When you consider it's enough chips to be basically like X-Mult, and it also becomes unconditional once you've played enough 2s. It's gigantic. Very good on Abandoned Deck as well. 10% of your deck is 2s. So it's a very easy place to manipulate your deck to be all 2s. Okay, so that's all of the general chips Jokers, but I've got 2 more here that I generally consider to be chips Jokers. So the Space Joker has a 1 in 4 chance to increase your hand level every time you play it. So what's the main benefit from getting hand levels? Chips. If you're playing a lot of straights, this guy will potentially give you plus 30 chips and plus 3 mult. 1 in 4 odds are fairly low. This guy doesn't pay out very much, to be honest. If you use the Wheel of Fortune, you know how low a 1 in 4 chance actually is. You don't want to rely on it. If you have the money to pick him up, and if you're doing a strategy that relies around playing a lot of hands, that's the circumstance where I pick him up. He's pretty good for getting easy high card levels, pretty good for getting easy pair levels. I wouldn't actually bother with straights unless you've actually cooked and your deck is able to consistently play straights. So focus on high cards, pairs, 2 pairs. Flushes if you're on the checkered deck, this guy can be very helpful with that. That's actually how we got the gold sticker for this guy, was flushes on checkered deck. I think I'm going to put him in B tier. I think I'm going to put him just above the Marble Joker. Not a huge priority. I wouldn't pick it up every time I see it in the shop, for sure. So next up, we've got the Burnt Joker. This guy's a rare, and he gives you an extra hand level on the first hand that you discard per round. So compared to the Space Joker, it's 1 guaranteed proc per round instead of a 1 in 4 chance per hand. So the extra consistency is great. Again, you're not going to get it on the high payouts hands, because you're probably not going to draw them consistently. This guy really benefits from you having lots of copies, like Blueprint or Brainstorm. The other thing is, you can play hands until you find the hand you want, and then discard it, and then you can get straights and stuff to activate off of this guy. But good luck discarding a straight and then playing another straight. It's a pretty good combo with the shortcut, the 4 fingers, etc. It can help with getting the hand strength up, like the planet cards do. I think blue seals are a better way to go about it in general, but just having a Joker that takes care of that for you isn't bad either. I think I've put it pretty high up, but I don't know. I think I'm going to put him above JJ, but below the guys that immediately bail you out, like the plus Mult Jokers. Pretty good value, potentially into late game. You're probably not going to want to keep him around until late game, because you can just get the hand levels and then sell him for a guy that immediately benefits you. But pretty strong overall. So, we've done the plus Mult Jokers, and we've got the plus Chips Jokers. So now we're going to have a look at the times Mult Jokers. So these guys are important because they times all the mult that you score from your hand, from plus Mult Jokers, etc., and multiply it again. And this is the final push that your score usually needs to get over the gold stakes bosses. 400,000 points needed. So let's begin with the Acrobat. This guy gives you times 3 mult on your final hand played only. So this is kind of annoying, because times 3 is a large bonus. It could be enough to win, absolutely. But it does mean you're relying on playing all of your hands to get there, which means you're not getting the economy from actually saving your hands. Which I'm not a huge fan of. However, times mult is good. There are certainly runs that we won because of this guy, but a lot of the time, you're going to pick this guy up because you think you might need him, and then you don't actually need him, or he doesn't get used. I think Mr. Bones is a little bit better at the job that Acrobat's trying to do, but obviously, Acrobat doesn't consume itself after getting used. But I think it's better in general. So I put it in A tier. It's not my favorite X-Mult Joker, but it definitely gets the job done. Ancient Joker. This is my least favorite X-Mult Joker. So this guy gives you times 1.5 mult per card played in your hand of the right suit. And it changes suit every round, and very, very importantly, the suit does not change on what cards are in your deck. If you fix your deck to be all one suit, it's still going to select a random suit. So you can't do that. You have to play the flush that this guy wants to win. And being able to consistently draw a flush of the suit that this guy wants is hard. I've tried to get this guy off the ground a lot of times. We did succeed once off stream, but usually he will fail you when you most need him. The issue with a variable X-Mult Joker, where it might have a chance to not work, is if that chance to not work happens, you probably lost the run then and there. That's usually how it goes. This guy's pretty good with wild cards, but the issue with wild cards is, A, you only get one wild card per lover's card, and B, the wild cards don't have the other enhancements. Like, you want lucky cards so you can get money and mult. You want mult cards for mult. You want Hierophant bonus cards for chips. You want gold and steel for holding in your hand. Wild cards don't have any of those benefits, except they let this guy work. And flush scaling isn't great, so you don't really want to rely on wild cards for flushes anyways. We won with this guy by getting 4 fingers and doing straight flushes. And that's how we got this guy to work. And we have Mary Andy for lots of discards. It requires a lot of specific circumstances to pull off. In white stakes, I think it's alright, because you have a lot more consistency in general to build a build where this guy works. But on gold stake, I just don't think he's consistent enough to win. I'm very tempted to put him in the bait category, but we have actually won with him. So, probably going to put him next to the Stone Joker. Next we've got the Baron. This guy gives you times 1.5 mult on kings, held in hand. So obviously, this guy is great in in white stakes. You see Baron Mime Technology getting the super high scores all the time. You're not really aiming for that in gold stakes. You're just aiming to win and beat the final boss. So how consistently can you actually get the Baron to work? Well, it depends. Because you're probably going to want a lot of kings in your deck anyways. Early on, you might be doing smiley face or scary face stuff. You might find Sock and Buskin. You might be doing stuff that involves face cards in general. You might be doing Shoot the Moon for plus mult, held in hand. It's very easy to transition from those builds to Baron. If you start adding a lot of kings, that's generally a pretty good strategy overall if you have some kind of boss mitigation. Definitely not one to pick up early on, hoping you can make it work. But it can be one that helps you win if you find it late game. And again, you can make the kings steel kings. You can put the blue steels on them if you find the trance cards. I'm going to put it right next to Shoot the Moon. I'm going to put it below Shoot the Moon. Because I think What you want to do is get this guy, get the queens, put your buffs on them, strengthen them up to kings, and then get the baron. That's the plan for getting this guy to work. This is the payoff. That's my opinion on it anyways. Next we've got the baseball joker. This is another rare guy. You'll notice that a lot of these Mult Jokers are rare, which means you're not going to consistently find them. So, yeah. This guy gives you times 1.5 mult on all of your uncommon jokers. It's only uncommon jokers. It doesn't include rare jokers. So, if you're building a combo that requires a lot of combo pieces to work, that happen to be uncommons, this guy can help that pay off and actually score enough points it needs to win. It's kind of a win more joker, but 1.5 isn't bad. If you're probably already trying to build around whatever uncommon you find to win the late game anyways because of their relative strength. Yeah, I'm kind of mixed on this guy. I think he's okay, but the odds of actually being able to pull him off are quite low. Payoff also isn't huge because you can't re-trigger that 1.5 times mult on your joker, and you only have a limited number of jokers, and you're probably not filling up your whole board with uncommon jokers until the very end, if at all. You might even have a few rare jokers in there, especially if you've got blueprints of brainstorms. So, I'm not overly keen on this guy. I don't think he's bad, but I just think he's kind of situational. I think I'm going to put him over here, similar to these guys. It could be a good payoff for specific strategies, but if you find him early on, he's not really going to save you. And sometimes the X-Mult applies in ways that are kind of weird that don't really synergize with what you're doing. Blackboard. This guy is fantastic. So this guy gives you times 3 mult if you only have black suited cards held in hand. So spades or clubs. It's quite easy to modify your deck to remove the red suited cards. If your deck is all spades or all clubs, that works fine. And then you get the times 3 mult. If your hand size is reduced, it's also very easy to only have dark suited cards in your hand. You don't want wild cards in your hand for obvious purposes. So if you're making your gold cards, your steel cards, your blue seals, you're probably going to want to actually put them on dark suited cards just in case you find blackboard. It's only an uncommon as well. And the times 3 is often enough to get you over the threshold. This guy's very good. I think I'm going to put him quite high on the list. I think there's very few circumstances where I wouldn't try and get this guy to work. I think this guy's the best. I think there's very little opportunity cost in building your decks on gold stakes incidentally to end up making use of it. It's an uncommon, so you're not going to miss out on it that often. Bloodstone. We've talked about Bloodstone a lot. This is an uncommon. Every played heart gives you a 50% chance to get times 1.5 mult. So not only is it dependent on you playing hearts, it's also a random chance. And like the Ancient Joker, this guy might just choose not to pay off. The difference is you can build your deck specifically around hearts, so you can get loads of Sun cards, you can get Smeared Joker to help out with that. Maybe you get this on the checkered deck. But it has a chance to just fail utterly. Like, the expectancy is about 1.2 times on these guys. So you'd expect about 2.5 times in general from playing this. But it could be higher, it could be lower. If you're relying on this to get the points you need to win, and it doesn't hit and you just lose, that's not very cash money. So again, I don't think Bloodstone is good. And it took us a while to get this even specifically looking for it on checkered deck. But again, if you're re-triggering the hearts as well, that's quite strong. Red seals, I haven't mentioned them yet, but red seals are a good way to re-trigger heart. And get re-triggers on all these other guys. So every time I talked about re-triggering a card, making it stronger, that's what I mean as well. If you find a red seal and you duplicate it, you can get it to work with one of these jokers. Great. That works with the Heartstone, Bloodstone as well. I think I'm going to put it higher than Space Joker. I think... No, I'm going to put it higher than Erosion. I don't think it makes any sense for this guy to be lower than the Plus Hearts Joker. It doesn't make any sense. So, we've got our first Legendary Joker who's shown up. It's Kaneo. So this guy, you only find him in the Soul card. It's a very low chance of showing up in Tarot packs, Arcana pack. And he gains times 1 mult for every face card you destroy. The issue with this guy is, You might find him randomly by luck, and then not find any ways of destroying face cards. You either might lack the tarot cards or the jokers to do it, or you might be playing abandoned deck. Feels bad. Or you might just not find the face cards to destroy when you need to, depending on circumstances. But if you can get a single proc off, this guy goes to ×2. If you get 2 off, he goes to ×3. And then he goes from there, he goes absolutely mental. Very strong with Pareidolia. For a change. If you find Pareidolia, all of your cards become face cards. Every card you destroy by any means, including like stuff like Immolate, or the Grim, the Incantation, the Familiar, anything that destroys any card is going to give you X Mult. That's a very strong combo. Pairs very well with Trading Card as well. You can consistently find at least one face card to discard per hand, and consistently get ×1 Mult per round on this guy with Trading Card. That's huge. So he's not as consistent as the other legendary jokers, but I think he's still very good. So he definitely goes in A tier, but I think he probably goes below Acrobat. I'm not sure how much further he goes than that, just because of the consistency issues of getting him to proc. Because I've had a lot of runs where I found him, and you just don't get him. You just don't find the means to get the initial ×2, and then you just die. Don't spend all your money looking for ways to proc him. But what I would say as well is, with the Soul card, specifically on Gold Stakes difficulty, this is a feature of Gold Stakes difficulty. If you've already won with a certain legendary joker and gotten it stickered, it won't show up until you've gotten the stickers on all the other jokers. So let's say you won with Perkio first, Tribulate next, and then Yorick or something. You've got a 50% chance of finding this guy in each Soul pack after that point. So if you're sticker hunting for all the jokers, eventually you will get to the point where you can find him semi-consistently, just because of how Gold Stakes difficulty works specifically. And then you can probably eventually find a run where you can force him to work and he goes off. So yeah, I'm going to put him at A tier. Very strong payout, but you just got to get him going. Campfire's next. This is pretty interesting. It starts at ×1 Mult, and it gains it gains an extra ×0.25 Mult per card sold, and then it resets after every boss blind. So this is a lot of X Mult, but you need to do a lot of buying and selling consistently. You're going to have to sell 8 cards to get it to ×3. So if you've got a lot of economy going, if you've got a lot of consumable slots, maybe you've got the Crystal Ball voucher, maybe you've got the liquidation voucher, which makes everything super cheap, so you can just buy and sell planet cards for free. On Gold Stakes, buying and selling rental jokers is also very effective. This guy's pretty good at Gold Stakes because of that. Obviously, you can't buy and sell Eternal Jokers. I think it's pretty strong. I personally don't like using it because I keep forgetting to buy sell stuff, or I just don't do a lot of that in general. But it's definitely one that you can make work. The payout is strong. I think it makes sense to put him in A tier with the rest of these guys, but I don't think he's better than Kaneo. Card Sharp. This guy's great. So he gives you ×3 Mult on your hand if you've already played it this red. So great for high card, great for pair, great for 2-pair, great for flushes on checkered deck. If you find a way to duplicate it, that can become ×9 or ×27 very easily. Same with Blackboard, which is why another reason why these guys are so high up. So Card Sharp gets to go next to Blackboard. Obviously, if you find the Needle, you're not going to be able to trigger this guy with only one hand. To proof yourself against that, either get boss protection, reroll the boss, get the Luchador, stuff like that. Or get the Burglar specifically, so that you get +3 hands and you can play Card Sharp into the Needle. But yeah, ×3 on a repeated hand is huge. Very good if you're building your deck to consistently play the same hand over and over again. Very strong. Usually what we sort of plan on finding to get us over the finish line. Next we've got the Cavendish. We've got another rare S-tier Joker. Obviously, so this guy gives you ×3 Mult unconditionally, and it has a 1 in 1,000 chance of expiring. So compared to this guy, who has a 1 in 6 chance, that's obviously very good. ×3 isn't the highest payoff, but it's completely unconditional. And the reason I'm putting this guy in S tier is because you're probably prioritizing finding Gross Michelle anyways, because plus 15 Mult unconditional is huge early game. So you're probably planning on finding this guy and expiring him anyways. And if you do happen to find this guy, because this guy's a common, once this guy expires, you can find this guy as a common, same odds as any other common. It's fairly likely you'll bump into this guy again if you've got a lot of money and you're doing a lot of rerolls, or you've got overstock perhaps. Much more so than compared to other uncommon jokers. And the time free Mult is huge. You could duplicate this guy pretty easily. Another way you can very easily duplicate this guy is actually with the Showman. You might be doing Showman stuff anyways if you're trying to get Hanging Shadow Photograph to work. Because they're both commons, and you want lots of them, so you can get lots of X-Mult. Cavendish actually goes in that plan pretty well. You can find lots of Cavendishes with Showman. And lots of Cavendish means times 9, times 27, unconditional. It's huge. So this guy's basically an auto-pick on gold stakes. Obviously, on lower difficulties, and if you're trying to go for endless runs, there are ways of scoring more points. Times 3 doesn't go that far. But if you're just trying to get the win, I don't think there's any reason you wouldn't pick Cavendish, unless you didn't have any room for base Mult. Like if you were relying on a plus Mult Joker and you didn't have the room to get rid of it somehow. But that's not good planning in general. You should be planning to have at least one Joker for X Mult on gold stake to get you over the finish line. Unless your other technology is just super strong. So I think he is just the best sort of X Mult for gold stakes, to be honest. Next, we have the Constellation. So this guy gains times 0.1 Mult for every planet card you play. So this is planet cards specifically. But the blue seals give you the planet cards. So you can, if you have blue seals, you can get a lot of free procs on this guy, and he can get very big very quickly. If you have Telescope and you're scaling up a specific hand, this guy goes really well with that. He obviously goes really well with the Astronomer as well, which we'll talk about later. But free planet cards, free planet packs, synergize very well with this guy. Synergizes very well with Liquidation when the planet cards all become $1. You can just pick them up, get times 0.1 Mult. Very common to get this guy to times 5, times 6, times 7 Mult, if you get him early enough. You do need the economy to get it running, which I think makes it a bit worse than Blackboard and Card Sharp. The main thing is it's kind of just a late game win con, because it doesn't scale up so quickly that it's going to immediately save you in mid game, and obviously it's not going to save you in early game because it's X-Mult. Next we've got the Driver's License. This is kind of a weird one. So it gives you times 3 Mult, but you have to have at least 16 enhanced cards in your deck. So that means enhancements specifically, like stone cards, gold cards, steel cards, wild cards, bonus cards, Mult cards, lucky cards. This doesn't mean seals, like blue seals or red seals, and it doesn't mean additions like foil, holographic, or polychrome. So this guy is pretty much just late game. He won't help you out at all early game or mid game, and if you find it early, it's probably not worth picking up, because you're probably not going to get it live before you die from the initial cost of buying the rare Joker. So it's not amazing. If you find it late game, ideally the situation is you built your deck how you want it in the early and mid game, and you just find it late game, and this is what gets you over the line once you find it. It's not bad. I don't think I'm going to rate it as high as the other ones, just because it's not going to help you at all until the late game. And you can quite easily throw a run trying to get this guy to actually pay off. I think I'm going to put him at the top of B tier. It will get you over the hill, but it takes a lot of effort to get it off the hill. And if you've already got 16 enhanced cards in your deck, you might already be winning. Next, we've got the Flower Pot. This guy gives you times 3 Mult if your hand contains every suit. So this is great for straights. This is great for full houses. It's great for 4 of a kind, obviously. The issue is, getting one of every suit in your hand can be quite hard. If you have a couple of wild cards sprinkled into your deck, into the hands that you're going to be playing, that can help a lot in terms of consistency of getting this guy online. But it's quite strict. It doesn't work with simple builds where you can play the same hand consistently. Probably going to put him just above Bloodstone. I really don't like Bloodstone. Next, we've got the Glass Joker. This guy is pretty weird. He gives you times 0.75 Mult, or he increases by 0.75 times Mult every time a glass card breaks. So this is great in the circumstance where you've got a glass card, probably with a red seal, and you're duplicating it with DNA or some other means. You're playing a lot of glass cards, you're getting a lot of points, you're getting a lot of X-Malt from them, but if they break, you still have some fallback X-Malt from this guy. You have to have a glass card in your deck to find this guy. That's all. So the odds of finding him are very low. And as a result, we haven't actually won with him on Gold Stake. So automatically, that means he's not doing very well. Because the odds of finding him to help you out just aren't great. And if you're playing lots of glass cards, you're probably getting enough X-Malt to win off the glass cards anyways. The X-Malt from the glass jokers kind of just do more. If this guy added plus malt to glass cards as they're played, and that plus malt scaled per glass card breaking, this guy would be a lot stronger. But specifically because it's X-Malt on a win con that already wins with enough X-Malt, I just don't think it's very good. So I'm gonna think I think he goes in C tier with the Ancient Joker. So now I've got to hit the road. So this guy is interesting. Every jack you discard gives you times 0.5 extra malt for the round that you're playing, and it resets every round. So this guy's kind of weird. He's good if you fix your deck with a lot of jokers, with a lot of jacks. You might be doing that anyways, because of all the face card synergies. But this requires you to have a lot of discards, which doesn't work very well with Gold Stake difficulty unless you're using Mariandy. And you require a large amount of actual jacks in your deck to get this to work, consistency-wise. And at that point, why aren't you just playing the jacks and getting 4 of a kinds? If your whole deck is jacks, it's pretty good, but you're not going to get that on Gold Stake. So I don't think it's great, but we have won runs with it. If you are fixing your deck with a lot of face cards anyways, it can be helpful. And the X-Malt is significant. Best comboed with extra discards. If you get the discard vouchers, that's very strong as well with this. It's a decent win con. I think it's less likely to come up than Baseball Card and Baron Shenanigans, I think, but it's similar sort of level to that. So I'm gonna put him in sort of middle of B tier. Next, we've got the hologram. This guy's one of my favorite X-Malt jokers. It just gets times malt for every card added to the deck after you buy this joker. So cards you've added beforehand won't count, which is good because otherwise this would be friggin' cracked. But yeah, this guy can scale very quickly. If you find a lot of standard packs, this guy could get to times 3 malt very easily. If you have a joker that adds a card to your deck every round, like the certificate, like the marble joker, it can be very, very strong. If you're adding cards with DNA, which can be a win condition in a lot of cases, it can get very strong very quickly. Frequently, if we find it early, it becomes a defining feature of the run, trying to find ways to add cards. But you actually find enough standard packs often on Gold Stakes that this guy will get you as much payout as, say, Blackboard or Card Sharp, but without the restriction. Now, obviously, the opportunity cost of this is you're adding cards to your deck, so you're reducing the consistency of your deck. So you've got to make sure you're adding cards that you want. And that can be cards with like seals from certificate. It could be cards with additions that you're going to play, cards with enhancements that you're going to play, maybe a lot of gold cards for extra consistency. Don't just pick any card from a standard pack. It's weird actually, because sometimes it is just worth picking any random card from a standard pack for the X-Malt just to get this guy going. But do keep deleting cards as you go. This guy doesn't decrease in malt as you delete cards with, say, the Hanged Man or Immolate. So look for those tools actively and get your consistency back. But yeah, this guy is very strong. Probably one of my favorite X-Malt jokers. He goes just below the banana. Next, we've got the Joker Stencil. This guy gives ×1 malt for every free Joker slot you have, including himself. So very strong, actually, if you find him early. You don't have any other Jokers. But obviously, the more Jokers you add, the less effective it gets. So this guy, unlike the other X-Malt Jokers, will often save you early game, especially if you get some early planet cards. And then it lets you transition to the build you want. I don't rate it super highly because the chances of it actually pulling off and sticking around late game are not super high, but it can save you early game. I think it probably goes somewhere among these guys. I think I'm probably going to put it slightly ahead of these guys. Because The early game value is good. And even into the middle late game, if you're still looking for that Joker you want, or you're doing a buy-sell build, potentially with Campfire, the ×2 is still not bad. So I think I'm going to put him next to Driver's License. Loyalty card. This guy's weird. I'm not sure he's bait tier, but he's not very good. He gives you ×4 mult every 6 hands you play. Now, you probably noticed you only play 4 hands per round usually. This means you're not going to be able to trigger this guy every round. And because of how the scaling works in Balatro, that means you might lose if you can't trigger this guy every round. And you're relying on the X-Mult for this guy to work. But ×4 is a lot. And if you do get both hand vouchers, then you've got 6 hands. You can play this every round on your last hand, and then it's a better acrobat. Or, the main synergy is if you find this with Burglar. If you find this with Burglar, then you get 7 hands around, and you can consistently play this guy. Especially if you duplicate the Burglar. We'll talk more about the Burglar later. So in summary, this guy isn't great, doesn't generally help very much, but can potentially carry in the right circumstances. I think I'm going to put him in the bottom of C tier. Lucky Cat. So this guy, like the other card-based Jokers, you only find the Lucky Cat if you have a Lucky card in your deck. But you're probably adding a lot of Lucky cards anyways, because the plus mult is good, and the chance of getting the dollar, even one $20 payout early on, can be absolutely huge. So you're probably adding Lucky cards anyways. And it gives you ×0.25 mult permanently every time a Lucky card activates. So this is very strong with Oops All Sixes, but it's also very strong if you're just playing a lot of Lucky cards and you're re-triggering them a lot. It's a pretty powerful win condition, especially because the Lucky cards are giving you plus mult on their own. I like it a lot. I like it a lot more than Glass Joker as a result. And you're getting the payoff when it succeeds. So it's kind of a snowballing effect, as opposed to the contingency effect of the Glass Joker. I'm going to put him here, bottom of A tier, because it's very strong if you find it, but you do also have to find it relatively early on. If you find it late game and you don't have time to scale it, it might not be enough to survive. Madness. This guy's kind of weird, so I've said that about a lot of Jokers now. He gains plus 0.5 times mult per small or big blind that you play. And he destroys a random Joker after you select the blind. Now, on Gold Stakes specifically, if you find some good Eternal Jokers don't get destroyed by this guy, and you can combine him with them to win. But this requires a lot of luck in finding Eternal Jokers that actually help with what you're doing. So I don't think it's very good in general, but it can occasionally pay off. We have one with him. We won with him fairly early. It's kind of wild to get working, but if he does, very strong. I think it's a lot more difficult to get working than, say, Hit the Road or the Baron, I think. It just depends on finding the good Eternals. And then, obviously, if you do find the Eternals, you're locked in and you can't trade them out for better Jokers. That has a lot of opportunity costs associated with it as well. But it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting on Black Stake at higher difficulty. So, then we've got Mr. Bones. I put this guy in the X-Mult category, because effectively what he does is he saves you from the boss, he saves you from the blind if you score 25% of the required score, at least. So in those circumstances where he saves you, he's effectively a ×4. But you don't get any money, because he saved you, you don't beat the boss, and he does self-destruct. So he's a one-off acrobat, slightly better, that you don't get any money from, which is not huge. But a key distinction as well is if you're doing Plasma Deck runs, he still applies his effective multiplier, even though you're doing your chips. It doesn't get factored into the balancing. So that's actually pretty strong. And we've tried a lot of Mr. Bones on Plasma Deck, and it has helped us quite a lot. Early, mid-game, mid-late game, mostly. But there's also the issue that if you don't use him, he's not actually doing anything. So he's a bit of an oddball. Next we have the Obelisk. This is a painful Joker. I like the Obelisk a lot. It's very fun design. So it gains times 0.2 mult every time you play a hand that's not your most played hand. So this can scale quite quickly as you play a lot of hands in the late game. but you have to have a most played hand that you're not going to repeatedly play again in the late game for it to work. So what a lot of people do with this is they play a lot of high cards early on, and then they transition to pairs. Probably with Card Sharp, Supernova, Card Sharp, Greed Joker, I think is usually what you do. Because the Greed Joker doesn't care about the hand. The Card Sharp applies more X-Mult. You need a pretty robust strategy to get this guy to work. But it can give you the X-Mult you need to put it over the line. The issue is, if you forget even one time and play the wrong hand, it resets. And you need to actually build it up enough that you're not going to trigger the reset before you get to the boss blind. So early game, you're basically trying to feed this guy and survive at the same time, which is quite difficult. We still haven't beat this guy on Gold Stake, so that kind of says a lot. It's kind of a trap. There are better X-Mult sources for you to find that will give you enough points to win. And the odds of you pulling off an Obelisk win are quite low, but it's very fun. So I don't think I can, in good conscience, put him anywhere higher than C tier. I think I'm gonna put him just above the Ancient Joker, because I hate the Ancient Joker. Alright, it's time for the man himself. Look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. This is a common Joker, and the first base card you play in your hand gets ×2 mult. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, because the ×2 mult is being applied before your base, it's being applied before your plus Mult Jokers. So it's not going to synergize with those very well. But you could re-trigger this guy very easily with stuff like Sock and Buskin, Red Seals, Hanging Chad in particular gives you 2 re-triggers on the first card you play. So playing high card with Hanging Chad and Photograph get you a lot of X-Mult if your base hand strength is high enough. This synergizes very well with plus Mult in hand Jokers like the Smiley Face, the Fibonacci, the Onyx Agate, the Raised Fist also applies as Mult before the X-Mult from the Photograph, provided you put the Photograph on the right side. The Smiley Face and the Raised Fist are commons. There's a lot of technology that can get this guy off the ground. And if you get the hand strength from Blue Seals and other sources, that's also a pretty good payout. And it's a common. So if you find the Showman, you can find duplicates of this guy pretty easily. Very strong with Hanging Chad in particular. I think I'm umming and ahhing about putting this guy in S tier. We've talked about him a lot already, which is very indicative of his strength. I think I will put him in S tier, but I'll put him fairly towards the back. It's strong. It's a common win condition. The synergy is great. Obviously, you need boss protection of some kind, because it has to be a face card. So you do need a way of stopping bosses that debuff face cards from ruining your fun. Pareidolia, again, is a situation that can make this guy even better, because now you can play any card, and it will be fine. Next, we've got Ramen. So this guy is ×2 mult, flat, but it decreases by ×0.01 mult for every card you discard. So this guy is great in builds where you're not doing any discards anyways. He's great with the Burglar. He's great with the Stuntman. Things where you're not planning on discarding anyways, you're just planning on playing every hand. ×2 isn't huge, but it's enough that it can get you over the line. It's not quite as high as some of the other Jokers. Very good for those specific types of builds. Less good otherwise, but even still, it takes a while for it to decay off below, like, say, ×1.5 mult. So you do still get value from it with regular builds. You have less discards on Gold Stake as well. You only have 2. So at most, unless you're adding discards and using Ramen, in which case why, this is only decreasing by ×0.1 per turn. So you're still getting some good turns worth out of this. I think I'm probably going to put him ahead of the Joker Stencil in B tier. Then we've got C Double. This is another ×2 mult Joker. It's ×2 mult if your hand that you play contains both a club and something that's not a club. Obviously not good with flushes. Pretty good with full houses. Pretty good with straights. Pretty good with 3 of a kind. That sort of thing. Quite consistent to pull off. You want to make a lot of clubs, but not too many clubs. Wild cards also help out with this as well, but you don't really need wild cards for this to be good. It's enough X-Mult to be useful on Gold Stakes. Obviously, only a quarter of your deck is clubs, but you could usually play a hand with a club in it, or perhaps keep a moon card in case you need it, or just play a lot of moon cards. You could use Smeared Joker as well with it if you really need it, but that's not a lot of payoff for Smeared Joker. I think it goes in here as well. The times 2 is pretty good. You can usually get it pretty consistently. I think I'm going to put it slightly above Ramen for that reason, because it's not going to depreciate. It doesn't require a lot of setup compared to like the Baron, the Hit the Road Jack, etc. You only need 1 per hand. That's not a huge requirement. Not like the Flower Pot where it's ×3, but you have to have 1 of each suit. That's a way different ball game in terms of consistency. And then last, we have the Steel Joker. So again, you need a Steel card in your deck for this to work. You're probably going to have at least 1 Steel card in your deck from picking up a Chariot card at some point. If you do find it, it's pretty good. It gains times 0.2 mult per Steel card in your deck. This isn't a huge amount. You need 5 Steel cards for it to get ×2. That's quite weak, and it's quite inconsistent. So I think it actually kind of goes down here with the other type Jokers, in that it's quite rare to find, and the payoff isn't great. And yes, you can duplicate Steel cards, but at the end of the day, you're only going to have so many Steel cards in your hand, and you're not going to play them. You're not going to find it a lot of the time, and often the circumstances where you do actually find it because you have a random Steel card in your deck, the other X-Mult Jokers are just stronger. Like, usually I find it and then decide it's not worth replacing any combo piece I already have. I think he just needs a buff. I like the Joker, but I think he just needs a buff. So then we've got the menagerie of these guys, where they give you flat X-Mult for playing a specific hand. They're kind of similar to these guys, but it's for a specific hand. I don't mind these guys as much as these guys, because the payoff is worth it to set up your deck in a way that you can play these hands. The duo is the first one. ×2 for playing a pair, or playing a hand that contains a pair. So that could be a pair, that could be 3 of a kind, that could be 2 pair, that could be 4 of a kind, full house, you name it. You're going to get ×2 on it. That's pretty strong. So I'm a pretty big fan of it. It's probably something where you're probably going to replace it with something that gives you a little bit more value. But if you find it early on, you can lean into it. It's going to help you survive. With any plus mult, it's going to be helping you survive long enough to be relevant. It is a rare, so it's quite unusual to actually find it. I think I'm probably going to put it above the driver's license because it's easier to pull off, and it doesn't require any funny suit manipulation. If you're building a deck where you're trying to play pair adjacent hands, you're almost always going to be able to play a pair. But I think the payoffs for some of the others are a little bit better. So let's actually talk about some of those now. So we've got the trio. Just ×3 if you play over 3 of a kind. ×3 is the benchmark for X-Mult, believe it or not, with all these guys. Fitting a 3 of a kind in your hand is potentially challenging, but late game, by the time you actually pick up this guy, it's not too bad. You can still do it fairly consistently in the early game, but you might fail to find a 3 of a kind. We've lost a few runs that way. But it's 50% more mult than this guy. It's quite a lot. So I think he goes very close, but just at the bottom of A tier. I think I'll go next to the Lucky Cat. Then we got the family. This guy is not very good. 4 of a kinds, you're not going to get them early on. You just aren't. If you do, it's luck. You need a lot of deck manipulation to be able to consistently play 4 of a kinds. Like, we played on erratic deck quite a lot, specifically looking for 4 of a kind builds. And even with like 10 or 11 of the same card in your deck, you can fail to find the 4 of a kind. It's obviously way more consistent than 5 of a kind, but ×4 mult is not actually that good of a payoff. I would rather have the trio and just know that I can get the ×3 even if I miss. Because it's pretty much the same level of payout. So I'm not sure I put it in C tier, but I think I would put it down here with the other questionable choices, because it's quite hard to pull off. Let's see the order. So this is for straights. ×3 mults on straights. Straights are strong. This is basically part of the straight win condition. The blue seal scaling with planet cards gives you a lot of chips, a lot plus mult. This is the X-Mult that finishes off the combo and lets you actually win. So I think that goes in the bottom of A tier like this. The main issue with straights is you don't always hit the straight. Unless you're... Unless you're using all the synergy jokers like Shortcut, Four Fingers, etc. You're not always going to get the straight. You're certainly not always going to get the straight flush. You need a lot of consistency tools to make sure that you can pull it off, which means you're probably using at least one joker for consistency. So the scoring from this guy is pretty valuable. But he is also kind of niche because you're only doing it with the straights. If you have a deck where straights just aren't viable for some reason because of the other conditions that you found as you're going through the game, it's not going to help you out. There's a lot of runs where we've done where we found the order and we'd be like, well, it's too late to make this to work. But it's very strong when you are building towards straights, and that's a good way to win in gold stakes, so I think he deserves to be an A tier with his buddy, the trio. And then oh god, what's this guy even called again? The tribe. ×2 mult on flushes. So flushes are pretty consistent. Not quite as consistent as pairs, but fairly close, especially if we're playing checkered deck. ×2 mult isn't great, and the plus mult scaling of flushes also isn't great. It's a lot easier than, say, the family, but ×2 is not a very good payout. You really need a bit of extra mult source to get flushes to work, and this isn't quite enough. It's less consistent than pairs. It's the same payout. If you're manipulating your deck into all of one suit, that's fine. If you're using Smeared Joker, that's a way of doing it. But that's generally not enough to win gold stake with the plus mult from flush scaling. So, yeah. I think it goes between these two in terms of payout and consistency. Next, we've got the Idol. This is definitely bait. So, why? So this is ×2 mult on every card in your hand that is a specific card in your deck. So it could be Jack of Spades, it could be King of Clubs, it could be 5 of Diamonds. It changes every round based on what cards are in your deck. So it has a 1 in 52 chance of hitting a specific card. So there are two circumstances where this is useful compared to just playing the photograph. Either you've cooked your deck to the point where every single card in your deck is the same card, in which case this is giving you ×2 on every card that you play in your hand, which is absolutely bonkers. Or you have a lot of discards, and you can specifically find the card that you're always looking for by getting to the bottom of your deck. And then you're re-triggering this with Hanging Chad. So you're getting the re-triggers, you're getting like ×8. If you're doing that, which is one of the few circumstances where Idol can actually work, why aren't you just using Photograph if you're looking for one specific card? Even if you have like 4 or 5 specific cards in your deck, this is often still not going to hit the cards that you want. And if you're failing to hit on your X-Mult card, you know what's happening with that. You're dying. So unfortunately, that means on gold stake it's just bait. Very fun to get going on lower stakes difficulties, where you've got more consistency tools. You can manipulate your deck. You can have the Idol on your Joker board doing nothing for a while until you actually get your deck to where it needs to be. It is better on Abandoned deck, I would say. I'm going to skip Throwback for now, ironically, and talk about Tribulate. So this is a legendary Joker that does something very similar to the Idol, except it triggers on every king and queen. So they're face cards, so you probably have a lot of them that you're building around anyways. They do get disabled by bosses, so you need boss protection. But it's so much X-Mult because you're able to reliably trigger this multiple times compared to the Photograph. If you're just triggering this with Hanging Chad, it's equivalent to the Photograph. But if you've actually got, if you're playing like a 3 of a kind or a full house or even a straight with lots of face cards in it, the X-Mult from this guy can get absolutely insane. If you do find him in the pack, he's obviously a win con that will work in most cases other than Abandoned deck. Throwback. This guy gives you ×1.25 mult permanently every time you skip a blind. So that adds up. So if you skip the small and the big blind, you're going to get an extra 1.5 times on this guy. This guy can lead to some very quick runs where, let's say you find your chips from a stuntman and your plus mult from, I don't know, Mystic Summit or Fibonacci or something right away. You could use this guy to get the X-Mult and just get the skips. Quite risky on gold stakes with the amount of scaling you have. With the amount of scaling the bosses have. It is possible. We've done it a few times. Very strong combined with other X-Mult cards. Like, if you find this guy with Blackboard or Card Sharp, and you find the chips and the plus Mult Jokers, that could be enough to win on its own. Practically. And then you don't actually need to play the rounds out, you can just skip and get all the benefits from skipping. The benefits from skipping usually aren't as high compared to the benefits of playing, but if you have a lot of rental jokers and you don't have any money, skipping means you get the benefits of those rental jokers and you don't have to pay the cost. So that is worth considering. Quite specific circumstances where you'd use this. If you find it early on, you can do a few early skips and get a free ×2. That's not bad. So he's definitely above the duo in that respect. I think I'd probably put him above the Lucky Cat, but a lot of the time you're playing out to try and find the tools you need to build the deck you need to win. He does count skips from earlier in the game if you find him late, so he can occasionally, depending on the run you've had, just be some free X-Mult as well. The Vampire. This guy, when you play enhanced cards, he eats the enhancement and he gains times 0.1 Mult permanently per enhancement. This guy used to be times 0.2 and he used to be really strong. Times 0.1 is pretty weak now. You're spending resources to get enhanced cards. And the enhanced cards also have a lot of value. So turning that into times 0.1 Mult for the Vampire is kind of a bit of a desperation move. Unless you have a way of duplicating enhancements. So if you have Midas Mask specifically, where it turns all your face cards into gold cards, you play them. You play the Midas Mask. You can play the Midas Mask first, and then the Vampire, and then you get a large amount of X-Mult scaling off of this guy, and that definitely is run winning. And then you can get rid of the Midas Mask once this guy's big enough, like say times 3, times 4, and then you get that slot for something else. But it's kind of difficult to actually think of circumstances where you pick him up otherwise, because the cost is a lot. You have to have your economy going, and it also has to be more value than actually, say, playing lucky cards, which is questionable. So I'm probably going to put it below Hit the Raid Jack. Like, these are the guys I probably wouldn't consider picking up, unless I absolutely had to. And these are the guys who I might consider picking. Next we've got Yorick. This guy's another legendary joker, so he's quite rare to find. He gains times 1 Mult every 23 cards you discard after you get him. So, gold stakes, you don't have a lot of discards. You're probably discarding, if you've got this guy, 10 cards per round. So you're probably getting times 1 Mult per Boss Blind for free. That's pretty good. That's good enough to actually go above the Banana, probably, already. And probably the Wee Joker as well. I don't think it's better than Triboulet, but considering you're already using your discards, there's no real opportunity cost to pick this guy up. He is just X-Mult. He is value. He's pretty boring, but he's definitely a strong Joker. Obviously, if you have Meriandi, this goes up to probably times 1 Mult per round, which is gigantic. If you have the discard vouchers, he gets bigger a lot quicker as well, so that's huge. Triboulet, obviously, multiplying per card played in your hand can get out of hand very quickly. Yorick is a bit flatter, but a lot easier to use. So I think he goes just below Triboulet. If I had the choice between Triboulet and Yorick for a soul pack, I would pick Triboulet. So that's all of the times Mult Jokers now as well. So we're starting to fill this list out. So we've got 2 categories left. We've got the economy jokers, which are buffing your ability to find the cards you want, giving you more money to spend on things, or to power up the bull or the boot if you need to. So we'll start with the astronomer. This guy just makes all planet cards and celestial packs you find in the shop free. So that's a fairly large amount of value, especially if you have a lot of rerolls and the planet merchant. That's a lot of free value. If you're combining it with the constellation, it gets out of hand very quickly. And just having the extra ability to scale up your hands without having to pay the cost is quite good if you don't have a lot of blue seals. Obviously, the planet cards that you find in the packs, if you have the telescope voucher, you'll find the one for your most played hand every time. So that, combined with the telescope, is very strong as well. Will consistently get you more chips and Mult. So I think it's probably one of the best economy jokers. You could also just pick it up if you find it and there's a random celestial pack, and then sell it. And then you get a free planet pack for very little cost. Or maybe 2. But it's an economy joker that gets better the more money you have. And the payoff is quite large, especially if you find Constellation. So that's good. Now we move on to the Burglar. I consider this guy an economy joker because he gives you extra hands. He gives you 3 extra hands and removes all your discards. But you get $1 for every hand that you haven't played per round. And if you're usually playing 1 hand per round, you're making a lot of money off of him. Or if you're playing a lot of hands per round, and you've got lucky cards that give you money every time they're played, that's a lot of money. It's a bit of a stretch calling me an economy joker, but you could call him a consistency joker as well, but I don't really care. If you duplicate him with the blueprint or the brainstorm, then you absolutely you get the +3 hands and there's no extra cost. And then you can swap the joker that your blueprint and brainstorm are copying to another benefit. So this guy synergizes very well with these very powerful consistency jokers. Gives you lots of money, gives you lots of chances to dig down for the cards you want. If you're trying to play a very specific hand, you could just play a lot of random hands and thin out most of your deck very easily with the Burglar. I didn't actually play the Burglar a lot when I was streaming this, but I have come around since playing more Gold Stakes off stream. He's way better than I've been giving him credit for. I don't think he's run determinative. He's not going to win you the game on his own, but he's probably one of the most powerful economy and consistency tools you can find, other than the actual GOATs. So I'm going to put him top of A tier. You do miss the discards, especially if you're playing purple seals, but it's okay. If you've got this guy, you've got enough hands and you've got enough money, you can probably find more tarot cards that the purple seals don't matter as much. Right, so the business card. This guy has a 1 in 2 chance to give you $2 every time you play a face card. This is pretty good. It's a common. You're probably playing face cards a lot in the early game anyways, because it's a lot of chips and there's a lot of synergies. You can just plop this guy in, and he's going to make you some money on the side, and then you can just get rid of him when you find a better joker. Pretty strong, all things considered. It's not consistent money. It is if you're playing a lot of face cards, but if you're playing high card, it's not very good for obvious reasons. You can synergize it with Oops All Sixes, but that's not particularly strong. It's very strong for these sort of runs where you've already got all of your points sorted and you're trying to maximize your money by just playing a load of face cards every hand. It is potentially a very large amount of money, and playing those hands with the face cards makes you more money generally than saving the hands for the +$1 per hand at end of round bonus. So it's pretty good, especially combined with stuff like the Burglar. I think I originally put this in B tier, but I think I've talked myself into putting it into A tier. Not run determinative by any means, but it will definitely help you get your economy off the ground early on. Obviously not very good in the abandoned deck. I like it a lot. Next we have the Cartomancer. So this guy is an uncommon. He gives you 1 tarot card every blind. That's it. For free. So that's consistent value. Is it very high value? Not really. Golden Joker gives you $4 per round. The tarot card is usually worth about $4. It's not a specific tarot card. You can't manipulate which one it makes. And it doesn't make enough of them for you to consistently find the tarot cards you need. It's not bad, but I don't really feel like it's worth a Joker slot a lot of the time. Like, early game, if you find it's not bad, but again, it's not helping you survive on Gold Stake. And it's probably not giving you what you need to actually win. So I'm not a huge fan of this guy. I can't say he's bad. I just don't think he's very impactful. So I'm going to put him down here with Space Joker. Chaos the Clown. This guy I like a lot. It's another common. He just gives you a free reroll every round. If you find him, you can pick him up, you can do your reroll, you can sell him. You get a reroll for like $2. Pretty good value early game. If you find him as a rental, you can literally pick him up for $1, reroll, sell him, get $1. It's literally a free reroll for no cost. Early game. Hanging on to him late game is kind of questionable, but he does give you a lot more consistency when you find him in the shops early on. You can hang on to him for as long as you need until you can replace him with something better. Being able to find the combo pieces you need to actually survive is very important on Gold Stake. And I think he's probably one of the best economy jokers for that reason. I actually put him by Burnt Joker. I think that's fair. It's just consistent money, and it's finding what you need. And there's very little cost. Obviously, don't pick it if it's eternal. But there's really no harm. Next up is Cloud9. So this guy gives you $1 for every 9 you have in your deck. So obviously you start with 4 9s, that's $4. It's the same value as a Golden Joker, which is a common. It is actually often worth it to manipulate your deck into 9s so that you get the money from this guy. We won on stream doing that on Gold Stake. It's potentially a very large payout. Obviously the 9s aren't being used for face card shenanigans or anything else. You can still get re-triggers with the red seals. It's pretty good. Obviously, at worst, it's a Golden Joker, unless you're playing on a deck where you've deleted all your 9s, or the erratic deck, in which case it's worth less, but very little opportunity cost in picking it up if it shows up. Late game, you're usually going to have something better to find, but it's... I like it a lot. It's a good consistency tool. The bank card. This card lets you get into debt. It lets you spend down to minus $20. If you sell it while you're in debt, you can't spend anything. And if you get below minus $20, you can't spend anything. Obviously, on Gold Stake, if you can't spend anything, you're probably dead, because you're not going to be able to match the scaling of the bosses. Unless you have some kind of insane scaling engine working in-game. So, early game, this can be pretty good, because you can get it, and then you can find some more stuff. It's very good if you happen to find an investment tag, and you know you can get yourself out of debt very quickly. But obviously, whenever you're in debt, you're not earning any interest. So... you're hampering your economy for the rest of the game until you get out of debt and until you get that $25. Obviously, on the green deck, specifically, where you don't earn interest, this is quite good. I've got to admit, I haven't done a lot of green deck runs, but that is something to consider. Also, just being able to spend more money early game to find pieces you need can be handy. But just make sure that you have a way out of debt. Or... make sure that your strategy is strong enough to win regardless of not having to buy any more stuff. But at that point, you probably don't have a Joker slot free for the bank card. It's not bad. I think I ranked it fairly lowly before. I think I would put it at a similar level of impact to the Cardomancer, but only in circumstances where you actually need it. And obviously, if you find a blueprint in the first shop and you don't have the money and you open the booster pack and there's a bank card, you can take the bank card and buy the blueprint. So I can't put it too low. Next up is delayed gratification. If you don't spend any of your discards, you get $2 per discard at the end of the round. So on Gold Stake, 2 discards is $4. That's not great. Golden Joker gets you that without having to not use your discards. So I specifically think this isn't very good on Gold Stakes. You're probably going to want to use those discards to find what you need. It's not awful if you're in a circumstance where you don't need to use your discards. If you're doing a high card build, or a pair build, it's not bad. But again, a Golden Joker is probably just better. You know what? I'm going to put it in between the plus Mult Jokers and the plus Chips Jokers. Because I think I would rather pick a plus Mult Joker over it, but I probably wouldn't rather pick a plus Chips Joker over it on your average run. I think that makes sense. Then we have the joke. We have the cola. You sell this Joker, and you get a double tag. So obviously on Gold Stake, if you find this as a rental, it's $1. Buy it, sell it, no cost. You get a free double tag. So when you next skip, you can get a negative card. You can get more money. Skipping for money, I think, is quite strong on Gold Stakes, especially early on. Skipping for Joker tags, where you get like a free Polychrome Joker, is less strong because it could have debuffs like Rental, Perishable, Eternal that mean it's not desirable. But I think it's still usually worth it if you have a slot available. The question is, do you actually have a slot available a lot of the time? It can help you get going in the early game, but it's not guaranteed to help you get going in the early game. I think I've talked myself into putting it above the chip jokers. I'm going to put it here. Very useful if you find it early on. Can be run determinative if it, say, lets you get another investment tag early on. And you'll often find space for it early game. And you'll often find it rental. So, yeah, I think that makes sense. high B tier, I think, for the joke. Next, we've got the egg. So this guy just gains +3 sell value every round. You hold it in your Joker slots, and you can sell it for a lot of money, obviously. The main purpose is actually to keep it, rather than sell it. You can sell it if you absolutely have to get out of debt, or to purchase something specific, like a blueprint. But this guy makes your temperance $3 bigger. Every time you find a temperance, it's $3 bigger per round. So it lets you get to $50 temperances. It's not as good as the gift card, because you can just use the gift card, get the value, and then sell the gift card, and then you've got the temperances without the Joker slot being taken up. But it's still not bad. You can find it fairly often in the early game. It's usually worth picking up, because worst case, if you need the money again, you can just sell it and get more money back than you put in. So I think it's pretty good. And I'm going to put it next to the Swashbuckler. A, because I think it's that level of good, and B, because you want to use it with the Swashbuckler, because that gives you +3 mult per turn if you keep it, and then you get the temperance value as well. Just don't use clearance sale and liquidation unless you know that you're over the $50 threshold, because then that's going to decrease the value again. But this on its own, 2 commons, can potentially give you enough plus mult to win, and enough money from temperances to win. You just need to actually make sure you're getting those temperances, opening up those tarot cards, prioritizing tarot card generation. Let's talk about the gift card next. So this is an uncommon. It adds +1 sell value to every Joker and consumable you have, including itself. So if you've got a full board of Jokers, that's +5 sell value per turn. If you have some consumable cards, you're probably not going to sell them. Obviously, if you have Perkio and you have a load of negative consumable cards, that can add a lot of sell value if you're holding on to them with, say, Observatory, but that's not very likely for Gold Stake. So most of the time, it's just going to be your Jokers. And you're probably gonna sell this after you reach a large amount of value, or you need to replace it with something else, or it perishes, or you don't want to pay the rental costs anymore. And then you have a large temperance, and then if you use the clearance sale or the liquidation vouchers, that will reduce it, but you'll still have enough money from the temperance for it to be worth getting. And worst case, you can just pick up the gift card again after you use those vouchers to top up your sell value again. So I think it's pretty powerful. It's not very often you find it. I think I'm going to put it above the egg, because you can get the value from the gift card and then sell it, and you don't have the opportunity cost of taking up a Joker slot. But it is rarer. And if you have a build where you're not hanging on to the Jokers and you're planning on replacing them later, you do get to sell them for more, which is obviously good. But you don't get the persistent temperance value, which is equally as good as, if not more important. And I think the egg is better for the just redeem it and get some money approach, because you'd have to sell all of your Jokers to get all the sell value back from the gift card. But I still think the gift card is slightly better overall, just because of temperance and maybe Swashbuckler. Okay, next I'm just going to talk about the Golden Joker. This is a common guy. He just gives you $4 a round. That's pretty good. He costs $6, so he's quite expensive for a common, but there's other $6 commons like Hit the Bus. But yeah, $4 isn't bad. It gets added after, at the same time as interest, so you can't use this to help get more interest. But it's a lot of money. It pays for itself pretty quickly. If you find them early on, just pick them up and get them out when you have something better to put in the slot. I think I'm probably going to put him just below the 9. Because the 9, I think, is generally better, unless you're deleting 9s. But you're going to find this guy a lot more often, so I think he deserves to be right next to it. The Faceless Joker. So this guy, every time you discard at least 3 face cards at the same time, he gives you $5. It's a fairly large amount of money. $5, and you can do multiple discards. Again, this suffers from the gold stakes issue of only having 2 discards per round. But it's potentially a decent chunk of money if you have a lot of face cards. And if you have Pareidolia, you can trigger this every discard. You're not always going to have the face cards in hand to discard, so that could be kind of annoying. I would usually expect to get like 1 payoff a turn using this, so it's a similar level of value to the Golden Joker, but it does require you to discard the right cards. And then if you're discarding the face cards, you're not playing them. You're not getting the chips, you're not getting the benefits from the other synergistic Jokers. So I don't think this guy goes quite as high. I think I'll put him probably next to the Diet Coke. Next we have the Golden Joker. the golden ticket. This is a bit weird. So it gives you $4 for every gold card played. So normally, gold cards, you hold them in hand, you get $3. But this card is like, if you play them instead, you get $4. The issue with that is, like, you're only getting one of the benefits at a time. You're not getting both benefits. So, on the one hand, if you're using minus mask to convert your whole deck to gold cards, or a lot of your deck to gold cards, you can convert your face cards and then play them with the scary face and the smiley face and all that stuff, and then the golden ticket on top, and you get more money. But that's a lot of pieces just for more money. I find that this works pretty well on lower stakes difficulties to earn a lot of money, because you can manipulate your deck easy, get all the gold cards very easily, and then play them consistently. But it's kind of difficult to pull off that level of consistency in gold stake. So I don't think it's very good. I originally put it in bait in the D tier. I'm not sure it is bait. It could be bait. I think it is still bait in gold stakes. I think you're better off literally just looking for mime and then re-triggering the gold cards, holding them in hand. Because if you're playing a gold card, you're not playing a lucky card, you're not playing a bonus card, you're not playing a mult card. All these other benefits that are actually helping you survive and win, you're not getting. It's the opportunity cost. Hallucination. I'm very tempted to put this in bait tier just because it never works for me, but 50% chance of getting a tarot card every time you open a pack isn't bad. It's similar to the Cartomancer, except because you're going to find 2 booster packs per round. Except you have a 25% chance of not finding anything, and you have a 25% chance of finding 2 cards. But you have to buy both booster packs to get the benefit. This guy just gives you the tarot card without buying the booster packs. It can be good to pick up, and then as you get booster packs, you get occasional tarot cards, but I think Cartomancer is just better, which makes sense, it's an uncommon. Hallucination is a common, but you can get baited into just spending money on packs you don't need to try and get tarot cards, and that's not good. I don't think it's very good, in all honesty. The odds of finding consistently what you need from booster packs, especially on gold stakes, are less than usual. If you're looking in buffoon packs for the jokers you want, you're not going to have a good time. So it's kind of like red card in that sense. And the booster packs aren't great, but red card means you're either getting the booster pack benefit or the mult, so you're always getting some value. You could buy booster packs with hallucination and get no value. So I think this probably does go in C tier, but where it goes in C tier, I'm not sure. Probably just above regular Jimbo, I think. Right. Next, we have the mail-in rebate. This is very powerful. It gives you $5 every time you discard a specific card from your hand, and it changes every it changes every round. So, if you fix your deck so it's a lot of the same card, you can get $5 per card discarded per discard, which can get very large very quickly. You only have 2 discards in gold stake, which isn't great, but if you combine this with something like Mary Andy, you can get all the discard vouchers. You can get this to proc fairly reliably and give you a lot of money. Or if you're deck fixing it, can give you a lot of money. It's not quite as consistent as you'd like. Like, obviously on YouTube and stuff, you see people making a lot of money with this on white stake. On gold stake, it's a bit more difficult to get the money. A, because of the lack of discards, and B, because you've not got all the consistency tools you'd normally have. So, I don't think it's actually that good. I think I'll probably put it sort of next to the business card. I think it's that similar sort of level of value and gold stakes. But late game, it can make you a lot of money, which can be very relevant if you're relying on the bull or the boot. So that is worth considering. Late game, it can be a very large source of money if you build your deck a certain way. The Matador. This guy's odd. He gives you $8 every time your played hand triggers the boss blind. The circumstances for this guy are kind of very specific. But if you've got like a boss where, like, say, face cards are debuffed, you can just play a face card in your straight, and you'll get the $8. If you're playing against a boss that, like the Psychic, that disables hands where you play less than 5 cards, you can play smaller hands just to trigger the guy. This doesn't work with the Tooth. The tooth charges you $1 for every card played, but it doesn't actually trigger the Matador, which would have been a pretty meaningful synergy. Basically, there's... I'm not going to list them all here, because it's basically dependent on every boss, but if you find this guy at the start of the run, and you happen to find a boss where you can safely trigger their ability, you can make a lot of money very early on, and then sell him and replace it with someone new. Now, we haven't actually gotten the sticker on this guy, so I don't think he's very good, but he can be very useful early game in specific circumstances, like the Marble Joker. So I think he goes down here with these other economy cards, but ahead of the Marble Joker. Very occasionally handy, but when he is handy, he pays off in a big way. Next we have the Midas Mask. So this guy turns all of your played face cards into gold cards, and then you keep them in hand, and then you earn the gold from them. So that's pretty strong. It gives you a way of enhancing a lot of cards at once, which is a very good way of paying off Driver's License. It's also a very good way of paying off Vampire, if you find that uncommon. But again, uncommon rare synergies, you kind of don't want to rely on them on Gold Stake. So on Gold Stake, it's more that it's just giving you the extra money that you can use to go into late game with. So it is an economy Joker, first and foremost. I think it's pretty good. I'm going to put it next to the Vampire. Oh. That's irritating. I can't actually put it next to the Vampire. We'll have to fix that. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. Pretty good way of getting extra money from held in hand, especially if you get red seals on the face cards, which you're probably doing anyways. Potentially a lot of value, not an immediate payoff, but you're probably going to play the face cards early anyways. So, next, we have Perkio, this legendary dude. So what does Perkio do? He duplicates a random consumable card in your held items and makes it negative. It gives you a free copy of a consumable. It doesn't actually take up a consumable slot, which is unbelievably strong. So let's say you find a Hermit. You could duplicate that Hermit and get extra $20 per round. This guy does it after you, like every round he does it. And if you could copy him with Blueprint and Brainstorm, you can get multiple negative consumables, which is gigantic. If you have the Observatory and you manage to get a planet card for the hand that you're playing, you can duplicate many, many copies of that card. A rare combo, but one that pretty much wins you the game immediately, because he's giving you like times 1.5 mult per round. Multiplicative. So that's game winning in its own right. But the thing is, even without finding these crazy synergies, Perkio will give you the money that you need to do everything else. The consistency of being able to duplicate specific tarot cards, or even spectral cards that you want. If you're playing on the Ghost deck, if you're buying spectral cards from the shop and saving them for later, being able to duplicate those is unreal. Duplicating Fools can be very strong as well, so you can make big plays. It just opens up all sorts of avenues that makes you a ton of money, and probably helps you go to whatever your win con is. Now, the only thing I would say is, if you find him early on, he's probably giving you enough money to win. But he's not outright winning the hand for you, like, say, Triboulet or Yorick is. But he probably will pay off eventually. I don't think I can reasonably put him any below these guys, because the amount of value he gives you is insane. He gives you the economy and the consistency you need to actually win. That being said, it is possible to lose with him. It's possible to lose with the other guys as well. Like, if you don't get enough discards in Yorick, if you don't actually get your kings and queens, or they get disabled at the wrong time, you can lose with Triboulet. But I feel like Perkio makes the odds of you losing just a lot lower. If I had a choice out of a soul pack, I think I would pick Perkio every time. Especially if I was sticker hunting. Well, I don't know. I mean, if I was sticker hunting, I'd probably actually want the Mult Jokers, because they mean I could probably win with one less Joker because of the sheer amount of points I've scored. Something else to factor in with the Legendary Jokers is, they sell for $10. So even if you get one you don't want, you can still sell it for $10 if you absolutely have to. I just think he's so versatile. I don't think there's any circumstance where you wouldn't want a Perkio, unless you literally needed all of your current scoring tools to survive. So that's one thing that can be said. I don't know, what are your thoughts? What do you think the best Legendary Joker is on Gold Stakes? I think it's Perkio, but we'll see. Perkio was the one I first won with on Gold Stakes, for reference. Next we've got Reserve Parking. So every face card held in hand gives you a 1 in 2 chance of giving you $1. So the payoff is less than the business card, but it's for held in hand. Obviously, with Shoot the Moon and Baron, there's a lot of synergies for holding face cards in hand anyways. Can be pretty good. Again, this is every hand you play, so if you're playing a lot of hands with the Burglar, you can make a lot of money. Doesn't require discards. You can just play a high card and then trigger all of your face cards, so it synergizes pretty well with that build as well. I put it at a similar sort of level. Pretty useful for picking up some free money, just picking it up during the run. Is it going to get you $4? Is it going to get you $4 a hand or a round? Probably not, unless you specifically build around it, because the actual expectancy is $0.50 per face card held in hand. You kind of have to play all your hands to get it to work, and then you're spending the money you get from the hands. I'll put it to Face's Joker level, because the payout is less unless you're making a deck where it works very specifically. In which case, it's more, I think. That's my opinion on it. Riffraff. I put this in economy. This Joker creates 2 common Jokers without debuffs when you start a round. So because you find so many debuffs on Gold Stakes in the shop, this is a good way of getting common Jokers without debuffs. Common Jokers like Photograph and Hanging Chad and Cavendish. And if you don't like the Jokers you get, you can just sell them. They're not rentals. They'll be worth at least some money. So pretty good for just getting more money. If you have a dagger, you can feed the dagger the Riffraff commons as well. It's pretty good. I think this is probably one of the better economy Jokers. I think I'm probably going to put it... I think actually for Gold Stakes specifically, it's probably one of the best economy Jokers. I'm actually going to put it by the Campfire. If you have a Campfire and you've got a Riffraff and you're selling a Riffraff Joker every time, that's giving you an extra proc on that as well. And you're probably keeping a slot open for the Campfire anyways. So specifically, you're looking for the Cavendish a lot when you're keeping a slate game. But early game, it saves you a lot. It saves you money. It finds a lot of these common plus Mult Jokers that can save your butt. So the Rocket is next. This guy earns $1 per round, but it increases by $2 after beating every boss blind. So he starts weaker than the Golden Joker, but then becomes stronger the longer you keep him. If you find him early on, he's going to make you a lot of money. A lot of money. And you don't have to do anything. Unlike a lot of these other guys. Runs where I found this guy early on usually end up winning. Because we have enough money to find the tools we need. But it does require the Rocket to get started. Here, I'm actually going to put the Rocket above the Riffraff. If you find it early on, it's so strong it can be run winning. You just need to get to the point where it survives. There is a bit of opportunity cost in having it in a Joker slot, but I think it's way more likely to pay for itself than something like Cloud9. Or maybe even mail-in rebate on Gold Stakes. Rough Gem. This is not a good economy Joker. This is the Diamond Suit Joker. So it gives you $1 per diamond played. If you're playing a flush with diamonds, that's $5. If you're winning with one flush with diamonds, it's $5. So it's barely better than Golden Joker. So you have to be playing multiple flushes with diamonds for this to be worth using. How often are you in a situation of Gold Stakes where you're playing multiple diamond flushes to win? Because you're not doing it on checkered deck, because that's hearts and spades. Unless you're using Smeared Joker. The answer is not very many. I mean, the other thing is, this benefits a lot from re-triggers. If you have re-triggers, and if you have diamonds, for some reason, and you find this, it's worth picking up. I don't think it's very... I think it's going to be down here at the level of other economy Jokers that don't often have an impact. I'm probably going to put it next above Cartomancer. I can conceivably see a run where you get this to win. We have one with it, but it requires some very specific circumstances to be more valuable than anything else. Next we have the Seance. So this gives you a spectral card every time you play a straight flush. How often are you guys playing straight flushes on Gold Stake? It's probably not a lot, unless you've got 4 fingers. How many spectral cards are there? What are the odds that you get a spectral card that's actually going to be useful for whatever you're trying to do? Is it worth building your deck specifically around straight flushes to get random spectral cards that may not help you? I don't think this is worth using a gold stake at all. We haven't won with it. We've tried using it to win on several runs, including runs where we had straight flush builds. And it wasn't consistently useful in those builds. So why would it be useful anywhere else? I think the idol has to be the worst overall. But this is not good. I have not gotten this to work. I think it works a lot better on lower difficulties, where you're trying to find... where you've got more time to find spectral cards, and you can dig more for straight flushes. There's less of an issue. But even then, the payout isn't great. This used to be a rare, and they downgraded it to an uncommon because it was so bad. I think they still need to cook with this a little bit. I mean, if you're playing multiple straight flushes, you can get multiple straight spectral cards, which is pretty good. But good luck with that. We'll talk about Sixth Sense at the same time. So this guy gives you a spectral card for playing a 6 and deletes a 6. So I like this because it lets you delete the 6s and make your deck smaller. That's pretty good. The spectral cards are occasionally helpful, but not a lot of the time. I don't think this guy's great. I also don't think he's awful. I think I would probably put him... Again, I think I'd probably put him next to Cartomancer. Kind of doesn't really do a lot. Because you're only going to have so many 6s. Eventually you're going to run out of 6s. On Gold Stake, you're probably not going to be in a situation where you're duplicating 6s just for the Sixth Sense. And the spectral cards aren't necessarily what you want. You're probably going to get a lot of hexes and anks that you don't want late game, unless you have a load of Eternal Jokers. Stuff like that. So, it can pay off, but most of the time it won't. I don't generally prioritize it very much as a result. Next we have the Satellite. This guy gives you $1 for every unique planet card played. Usually it goes up to +9. If you play the Secret Hands, it goes up to +12. So pretty often, if you're opening Celestial packs and you don't find the planet pack you want, you can pick a random planet pack and then buff this. It's an uncommon, so you don't find it that often, but you can quite often get it higher than Golden Joker. We've used it a fair bit, but the fact that it starts lower than Golden Joker is not a point in its favor. I think I would put it just below Golden Joker. Because picking it up when it's not worth the money sucks. Picking up planet cards you don't want sucks. If you have the Astronomer, it's good. But that's another reason why the Astronomer is good, not specifically Satellite. But I talk about it a lot. I'm a Satellite stan, so we're going to keep it in A tier. Superposition. I feel like this is bait. I'm not sure it is bait, because you can play straights with aces and just get some free value, and that's fine. But if you're building your deck specifically around ace straights, you're kind of just making a bad straight build. Because you can't do straights that go through the ace in this game. Which would make this... If you could, it would make this card a lot better. Or if there was a Joker that let you do that, it would make it a lot better. It's a common. You do get free turrets from it occasionally. But if I'm building a straight build on Gold Stake, I want it to trigger as much as possible. Because the fail state of straight builds is not hitting the straight. So I'm probably going to be building it around the middle cards. So this isn't probably coming up. Shame. A lot of ace support isn't very good, in my opinion. The to-do list. Gives you $4 every time you play a specific hand, and the hand changes every round. This could occasionally be huge. If it hits pair, or if it hits high card, you can play a load of those, and then just play your normal winning hand, and you can make a ton of profit. If it doesn't, it's pretty much useless. So, I think I'm going to put it below Satellite. Still in A tier. Very powerful if you get it to hit. Common, so you can relatively easily find it early game. And then you can just sell it when you don't need it anymore. So I think it fits pretty well in that group of cards. Also, a pretty good one to pick up if it's a rental, because you can pick it up, use it for one round, and then sell it before you play the winning hand that doesn't trigger it anyways. So I like it a lot. The Interest Joker, to the moon. This gives you an extra $1 of interest for every interest dollar you earn. So without any interest vouchers, that is just $5 max. And you have to actually have the interest to make it better at first, the Golden Joker. But if you do get the interest vouchers, it can go up to +10 and +20 respectively, which is a lot. So I think I would probably put it just above Golden Joker again. Probably above the 9 as well. Like, yes, it's probably less money if you're not earning the interest, but you should be earning the interest, because how else are you actually getting a consistency you need to survive on Gold Stake? Spending all of my money on Gold Stake, so usually it would end up paying off, and the potential payoff is very high and doesn't require you to fix your deck in a specific way. You just need to find the right vouchers, which admittedly is kind of annoying. Then we've got the trading card. This is the S tier economy card. Why is this? So every round, the first card you discard gets deleted, and you get $3. So $3 a round. That's less than a Golden Joker. It's also deleting a card you don't want from your deck every round. You can make your deck very small if you find this early, or you can just pick it up for a little bit and get a slight consistency boost and some extra money. I picked this up if it's a rental because I just want to delete cards, and then it doesn't have any initial outlay cost. Making your deck small so you can consistently play the cards you want to fix is very powerful, especially with other high tier jokers like, say, Tribule, the Photograph, probably stuff like Card Sharp as well, Fibonacci, Onyx Agate. All these plus mult from played cards benefit from this a lot. And it also means you can dig to find your blue seals more often. You can dig to find your steel cards, your gold cards, all the stuff that you need to actually get the economy and the points together to actually win. Absolutely goated consistency tool. And it makes you money. It makes you a little bit of money. It's enough money to get over the interest hump. And then it's smooth sailing from there, because you've got all the extra consistency from a smaller deck as well. It's gigantic. There are very few ways of consistently deleting cards in the game. Next, we have the 8-ball. This is technically an economy joker. It gives you a 1 in 4 chance of a tarot card per played 8. So what's the issue with this? Again, it's one specific rank. You probably don't have a lot of 8s. You probably aren't playing a lot of 8s specifically, unless you're trying to get this to work, or you have some weird erratic deck. 1 in 4 odds is not great. You could play a 5 of a kind 8s and reasonably expect to not hit anything. You can oops all 6 it, but then you've got 2 jokers that aren't really doing a lot. I mean, I guess it's a lot of tarot cards if you get it with oops all 6s, and that can help you manipulate your deck a lot. But you just don't have that many 8s, and you probably shouldn't have that many 8s, because they don't get re-triggered by hack, they don't get re-triggered by sock and buskin. I think it is bait. I think it's good bait, but I think it's bait. I don't think you want to be building your deck around 8s for 8-ball. It is a common. If you pick it up early on and it gives you a tarot card, great, but it's probably not. And it's probably not worth the money you spend on it. Okay, and last but not least, we have the Vagabond. This is definitely an economy joker. This is a very powerful one. If you have less than $4, it generates 1 tarot card per hand played. If you're doing this with the Burglar, you're getting an absolute ton of tarot cards. Some of which will be money tarot cards, like Temperances and Hermits. Obviously, you only have 2 slots, and obviously if you get a tarot card that you don't want, you might want to sell it for $1, and then you might go over the threshold. But you can often just use the tarot in a way that doesn't harm your deck. Like, if you've got a moon card, you can just use it on 1 card, it's already a club. You don't want any more clubs. You don't have to worry about that. It generates... It's a rare, so you're not very likely to find it, but it generates so many tarot cards that you're likely to be able to build your deck more than if you just had the money normally from the interest. And you can still get money after the round through some of the tarot cards it generates. It's... I frequently stop runs because I've found Vagabond, and I know it's going to be game determinative, and we're going to win because we got Vagabond and we built our deck playing it that way. I want to play a different style of run. That's how good I think this is. So I think it goes just below trading card, because not having money for making purchases occasionally is not very good, but later on you're probably going to have enough tarot economy that you can make up for it anyways. But it does have some opportunity cost to get it working early game. You have to have an already solid build. You do have to have an already solid plan, and maybe like 1 or 2 things helping you out to start to actually get it off, get it rolling. But once it gets rolling, it gains so much momentum, and you can just sell it when you want to stop making tarot cards and just make interest again with a very fully manipulated deck. It's very good for that. But I think I would rather get trading cards a lot of the time because I can still keep my interest. It still gives me gradual deck fixing. It still gives me more money. It's less effort. But the payout for Vagabond is very high. It just requires a different style of thinking. So I think I think it deserves to be an S tier with the trading card. Okay, so now we're on the consistency cards. This is the final category. So we've got the re-triggers first. These are all the sorts of re-triggers in the game. And then we've got all of the other consistency cards that I can't really lump in any other categories. So, Dusk. This is not my favorite one. It re-triggers all cards played on your final hand. This isn't good, because part of the benefit of playing re-triggers is specifically you're playing a lot of them per hand, and you're getting a lot of activations. If you're playing the Wii Joker and you're trying to re-trigger your 2s, this is only going to re-trigger them on the final hand. But it does re-trigger all 5 cards, so it's not bad. It's not awful, but I don't like it as much as the other re-trigger cards. The other thing it is worth noting is this does re-trigger every single card. So if you're playing with 8 balls, if you're playing with, I don't know, Cloud9 stuff, if you're playing, I don't know, Fibonacci and you've got 8s, Fibonacci with aces and 8s, maybe? Dusk is probably the re-trigger source you want for that. It's not bad, but it's like, you are playing all of your hands to get to this, and depending on what you have, the re-triggers might not save you. It's not like Acrobat, where you've got a guaranteed ×3. You have to have the enhancements on your cards to make those re-triggers worth it, or have other synergies built in to make those re-triggers worth it. I find a lot of the time I pick up Dusk, and I don't have quite enough steam to get there with anything else. But it can be very handy for specific decks. So I think this goes here with the X-Mult cards that are of a similar feel. I think I would probably actually put it... I'd probably put it by the Baseball Joker, I think. I think it's that sort of level of strength. Next we've got the Hack. Hack's pretty good. So re-triggers 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. Now, these don't score a lot of chips on their own. So if you just pick up a Hack, it's not going to do a lot on its own. It does a lot with Fibonacci, it does a lot with Onyx Agate, it does a lot with bonus cards, it does a lot with lucky cards. You probably need some extra chips to go with it if you're re-triggering these low cards and you're not re-triggering bonus cards. But potentially very powerful. Very powerful with the Wii Joker as well, re-triggering all those 2s, getting a Wii Joker much larger. It's a lot of value. It's not quite S tier, I'm exaggerating a little bit. I'm going to put it just below the plus Mult cards here. Just having a plan for re-trigger your cards. Re-triggering lucky cards gets you a lot of money. Re-triggering glass cards is very powerful for getting X-Mult as well. I haven't really been talking about glass cards a lot in this video, but they're very powerful for late game if you don't have X-Mult. You can find some Justice cards and turn it around by re-triggering glass cards if you've got a build where you've got a lot of hand strength or plus Mult in hand. And Hack is a very important part of that if you put your Justice on a low card. That's what these re-triggers are very useful for in general. Re-triggering glass cards and re-triggering Joker effects. Very important. Next we've got the Hanging Chad. So this is an S tier card. This is a common that gives you 2 re-triggers on the first card you play per hand. You can drag your hand around so that whatever card you want to re-trigger gets played first. And this is obviously very... So early on, this is secret chips. This is giving you extra chips just for playing your card. So it gives you some value early on. If you have a Mult card, it's giving you the extra Mult early on, saving a butt. You've got a glass card. It's probably giving you enough X-Mult to save you later on in the game, and it's a common. Glass card plus Hanging Chad, you can almost always get that. And that's 8 X-Mult if you get the hand strength. So that's very strong. Hanging Chad plus Photograph is gigantic. Play a face card, and you will get ×8 Mult. Play a face glass card, and you will get ×64 Mult. That's huge. And again, if you duplicate that with DNA, you've got a very consistent strategy for a lot of points. And the best part is, they're both commons, so you can find them easily, and you can even use the Showman to actually get you multiples of each. You can fill your entire Joker deck with hanging chads and photographs. Mostly hanging chads, to be honest, because then you can re-trigger all your enhancements as well. And then you just win. Like, that is enough to win on its own. And they're just commons. Very, very strong. Also, something I haven't talked about a lot in this video yet, gold seals. They give you +3 gold every time you play a card. So it's basically a slightly weaker version of the golden ticket, except you don't need a joker for it. If you re-trigger that with the hanging chad, you can get a ton of gold, even if you have just 1 gold seal. And if you can duplicate them, then you're off to the races. Loads of value in pretty much any circumstance. You do need a little bit of extra investment to get it working, but it's so easy to get it working. It's so much value. Hanging Chad is definitely one of my most picked jokers, and it's for a reason. So that gets to go in S tier. Next we have the Soccer Buskin. So this is like Hack, except it works for face cards. Kings, Queens, Jacks. Obviously very powerful. We know there's a lot of face synergies. We've got the smiley face, we've got the scary face. Got Tribule. This also works with a photograph, but it only gives you 1 re-trigger because the photograph is only the first card in the hand. Still not bad. And it gives you re-triggers on all the others. This is definitely better if you're playing full houses, flush fives, straights, that sort of thing. Still definitely worth considering. Probably more if you're leaning on the face cards themselves and the face card synergies, rather than just trying to do photograph cheese. I think Hack is slightly better overall, because the Hack targets don't get disabled by bosses. If you're relying on Sock and Bustin, you probably need boss protection. But the face cards also give you a lot more chips on their own, so it's a lot more immediate value, especially if you're doing something like Plasma Deck, where you might need that immediate value to survive. So that's worth considering. Obviously, Hack is better if you find the Wii Joker, but you're not guaranteed to find the Wii Joker, so there you go. Next we have the Seltzer. This guy re-triggers every card in your hand, but it only works for 10 hands and then it perishes. Obviously, it's very, very strong if you're playing re-triggers to begin with. If you're playing lots of one card that doesn't actually satisfy another re-trigger target, this could be your re-trigger target. It works on the first hand, unlike Dusk. If you have glass cards and you get Seltzer, sometimes I skip with Seltzer to make sure I have it for the final boss. So that's a sign that it's pretty strong. Having unconditional re-triggers is very strong. So I think this does get to hang out with the big boys. I would probably actually put it here. The main issue with Seltzer is that it goes away. And then when it goes away, you're left in the lurch. Like, if you find it mid-game, because it isn't uncommon, like a Hack and Sock and Buskin. If you find it in the mid-game, you can get in trouble if you're relying on it to win. You can Showman additional Seltzers, but that's not very likely because it's an uncommon. But I have done it once or twice. That's quite nice. And then finally, for re-triggers, let's talk about the Mine. This is very good. It re-triggers held-in-hand abilities. Stuff like the Shoot the Moon, stuff like the Baron, stuff like Gold and Steel cards. Because you're not playing the held-in-hand cards. You can quite often get this to re-trigger a lot. Getting extra value from your gold cards is pretty good. The only thing is, it might not have any immediate effect. You do need to get the technology to get it to work for you, but if you do get it to work for you, it basically doubles its effectiveness. All of these re-triggers are really good targets for copying with Blueprint and Brainstorm. Because they can really maximize the effectiveness of these re-triggers and just let you go absolutely wild. That's especially the case with the Mine as well, because re-triggering the Baron and getting times 1.5 on all your kings held in hand when you're playing high cards is gigantic, and that's how a lot of really high scores are earned, but good luck pulling it off a gold stake. I think I'm going to put it just beyond the Swashbuckler. I think that's a fairly decent place for it. Like, it's probably not going to win you the game on its own, but it's going to help you a lot in terms of economy, and potentially it could be a solution to all your points problems. But you do have to get the technology going first. Speaking of technology, we've got the Blueprint and the Brainstorm. The Blueprint just copies the effect of the Joker to the right. So you can use it to literally copy any Joker. Not any Joker. Some of them are incompatible, but there's very few that are incompatible. This guy is unbelievably strong. The only issue is he needs something to copy. If you don't actually have any good jokers and you find a $10 brainstorm and you pick it up, you can lose because you don't have enough stuff to work with. But it's a very strong late game win condition because whatever your win condition is, it can just be another copy of that, and it doesn't require any caveats like Showman finding it in the shop again. You can change the target both like between rounds. Like if you find one thing that works and then something that works better, you can just swap out the thing and then copy it with blueprint. You can either copy like a start of round effect with the blueprint and then switch it over, like say with the burglar. You can copy the burglar, get an extra +3 hands, and then move it over to tribulate to get your extra X mult. And you get both benefits. You can do a lot of that by dragging the blueprint around. Like if you've got a retrigger here, like this for the hack, you can retrigger your cards and you play them with the hack, and then you can retrigger the mime afterwards for your held in hand effects. So it's not only doubling it. In the right builds, it could be tripling it or even quadrupling the effectiveness of whatever your setup is. And you can get copies of this as well. If you duplicate this guy, you can you could go absolutely crazy because you can just duplicate everything multiple times. Also very strong with hanging chad and stuff, but I think Showman shenanigans are probably better at that in general. But like, yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Brainstorm is also very good. It copies the Joker on the leftmost slot. This is quite a bit worse than Blueprint because you can't really use it to copy X Mult Jokers because you want those on the right so they apply their effects after all your plus mult sources. It's not bad if you're combining it with something like Bloodstone, because then you can get the X Mults from that or from the photograph or from the Hang Chad retriggers and stuff. It's pretty good for copying retriggers specifically. Because it doesn't matter where you put those in a Joker stack. I think there's quite a few circumstances where you don't actually want to brainstorm, because it's $10. Again, you do need something good for it to copy. Obviously, the payoff for it copying stuff is huge, but you can't really use it to copy X-Mult very effectively because it's locked to the left slot. So you can't use it to copy, say, Yorick, if you're relying on Supernova for plus mult. Stuff like that. So it's still S tier, but it's not next to Blueprint. It's quite a bit worse than a lot of these, I think. I think I'll put it here by the hologram. I think that makes sense. Still very good, but just do be careful, because you can bait yourself into getting this when you don't have anything to copy. Same with the Blueprint. I might as well talk about him now, the Showman. This guy makes it so that Jokers, Planet cards, Tarot cards, and Spectral cards can appear as duplicates. Normally, when you're in the shop, duplicate cards won't appear at all if you've already got them. So you'll only have one Hanging Chad and one photograph, unless you find the Showman. So he's an uncommon, so he's fairly hard to find. He does take up a Joker slot. But if you have a lot of economy and you have a lot of rerolls, you can use him to fairly consistently get duplicate commons. So that's very strong for Hanging Chad and photograph shenanigans. It's also very strong for finding extra Cavendish copies. We've done that before. Less good for finding copies of other things. Makes Celestial packs pretty bad. Because a lot of the time you'll find duplicate planet cards and you're not going to find the one you're looking for. Unless you've got Telescope, in which case it doesn't have any effect. But whatever. Tarot cards, it can also be detrimental, but occasionally, unless you find a Mega Arcana pack with two of the same tarot cards, so that could be pretty nice. And then, also the Spectral cards, that's not great, because you might get a Spectral pack full of cards that you don't want. But it's mostly good for duplicating common Jokers, so think of it that way and you'll be fine. That's mostly the payoff to this. Like, if you find another Supernova in the right circumstances, that could be a ×2 mult. But not very helpful early. You need economy to get it working. I've probably been over-exaggerating its usefulness. It's nice that it's in the game. It's quite rare that it'll actually be what wins you the game. We have one runs with it. It adds some nice additional flavor to the game, but it definitely goes down here with these other cards that occasionally pay off, but not really. I'm going to put him probably just above the Matador. He's just worth thinking of, especially if you're building around common cards. Certificate of Authenticity. This guy gives you a random playing card with a random seal at the start of every round. So quickly fills your deck up with cards, but these cards are usually things you want. You usually want gold seals for extra money anyways, even if you're just playing them as high cards. You usually want blue seals for getting the planet cards you want to make your hand as strong as possible. That's fair enough. You usually want red seals for getting re-triggers on stuff like glass cards. So overall, and you want the purple seals as well for discarding for extra tarot cards. So usually, I would say cards of seals are generally worth adding to your deck. You don't want to add too many cards, because then you can't find the cards with seals that you actually want, unless you have a load of hands or discards. Very, very strong with hologram. I think it's still probably one of the best consistency cards, because it gives you access to these seals that let you make your deck a lot more consistent, that you otherwise have to get spectral cards to get, or get lucky with standard packs. I think the synergy with hologram is what takes it over the top, because getting a free card that's useful most of the time and getting the times 0.25 mult on top of that is very strong. And again, very good to copy. Very good to copy with the blueprint, because you can get lots of extra seals. And also, because it adds it to your hand, you get the extra hand size when you do that, so that's fun. Not that that's super relevant a lot of the time. So while we're talking about that, let's talk about the DNA. This is an interesting joker. So when you play your first hand, if it's one card, it duplicates that card after playing it. So if you get a blue seal, if you get a red seal, if you get a glass card, if you get a polychrome card, or something specific along those lines, and you want more of it in your deck, this lets you get more of it. One more copy per round. Again, if you duplicate it with Blueprint or Brainstorm, it's a lot of copies per round. And that adds to your hand size if you've got duplicates. So that can be very powerful. Stacking your deck with a lot of one card, 4 of a kind, 5 of a kind builds. Very, very powerful, especially if you're trying to get stuff like the photograph to work, duplicating a face card with a good enhancement, a good addition, a good seal. Very, very useful for getting that to work. The main thing is, it is using up one hand per turn, and it's not necessarily doing anything unless you already have stuff you can win with. You can get baited into buying this early on, and then not actually duplicating anything worthwhile, and just adding random crap to your deck. Or not adding random crap, but adding stuff to your deck that's not actually helping you, instead of getting a points joker and then you lose. Very, very strong with hologram as well, because it's adding a card every round, potentially. But sometimes there's rounds where you don't actually want to play it. Obviously, you can't play it if you've got the needle, because then you play your one hand and then you're done, unless you're doing a high card build. You've got Burglar, that's not an issue. Burglar makes this a lot better. I think I'll put it next to the certificate. Very similar hologram technology. And I'm actually going to move these up here. Then, let's see. We talked about the Luchador as well. This guy, you sell him and he disables the boss blind. Being able to disable a boss is very helpful. Sometimes, you would prefer to usually have the reroll voucher, because even though it's a lot of money, it means you're not wasting a Joker slot on it. If you have a buy-sell build in general, it's quite handy to pick this guy up between rounds sometimes, if you've got the free Joker slot. I think it goes above these other inconsistent guys, because sometimes, like, if you're building a build that you know is going to win, unless you get the one counter, this guy lets you stop the one counter. It's pretty good. I'm going to put it with the Diet Cola. Right, we're getting to the last few Jokers. Chico is here. Chico is the last legendary Joker. So Chico does something very similar. He disables every boss blind ever. So he does take up a Joker slot, which is a little bit annoying. But not having to worry about any bosses. It's the ultimate boss protection. You can play face cards. You can play Paradolia without any worries. But your build needs to be strong enough to win without the extra Joker slot. Because Chico doesn't add any points. And that's the rub. Chico's the last Joker that I haven't won on Gold Stake with. I don't think it's because he's bad. It's just because you don't find him very often. You don't find him very often in situations where you can actually win with him, because the soul packs, it comes up so rarely with the soul cards. And it's even rarer that you actually have a circumstance where you're strong enough to win without a Joker and you find a soul card. I don't think he's very good for Gold Stake. I'll put it that way. I don't think I can actually put him any higher than B tier. So I'm going to put it by the Luchador. I think he does the same thing. Except he sells for more. And he disables all the other bosses until you get to the boss that you actually need to beat. And then once you don't need to worry about any more bosses anymore, you can sell them. Like once you find the reroll voucher. It's probably the Invisible Joker. This is a rare Joker. After 2 turns of holding it in your hand, you can sell it and it duplicates a random Joker. It removes negative from the copy. So, if you have a specific rare Joker that you want to copy, you can keep this guy, sell your other Jokers that you're going to replace later, and have pretty good odds of copying the Joker you want to copy. This is a good way of getting more blueprints, more brainstorms, more Perkios. Rare Jokers. Don't bother with it for common Jokers. I would rather use the Showman for that, to be honest. But it's potentially very, very strong. The only issue is it is random. And if you've got a lot of Jokers that you can't part with, it could copy a Joker that's not ideal. Still very powerful. I'm not sure I would put it in S tier for gold stakes, because it doesn't do anything on its own. You have to wait for 2 turns. It's a rare. The odds of it paying off, the odds of you getting to the point where it pays off are quite low, and even then you have to manipulate what you're doing with the Jokers to get it to work. But the reward could be very strong. So I think I put it here. I think I put it by the re-triggers. So next up, we've talked about Pareidolia a lot. Let's do this one as well. This guy makes it so that all cards in your hand are treated as face cards. It doesn't do anything else. So here's the rub. There's a lot of face card synergies in the game. Smiley face, scary face, photograph, that sort of stuff is very handy. It adds consistency to your deck by making it so that every card you play is a face card. The issue is, it doesn't do anything on its own. It doesn't do anything on its own. And you've not got a lot of wiggle room on Gold Stake. It's very rare you're actually going to have the wiggle room to get this guy and get it to set up to work. And the other issue is, you need boss protection, because if you find a boss that disables face cards, you're in for a really bad time, especially if you get this Eternal. Don't get Eternal Pareidolia on Gold Stake. It's not good for you. So, yeah, that's an issue. It doesn't pay off itself. You have to find a synergy, which you may not find, especially if you find this early on. You probably aren't going to find what you're looking for early on, and you're probably just going to die because you spent the money on Pareidolia instead of something else. So that's not good. I haven't won with it on Gold Stake yet. It's not that it's not powerful. Well, I think it's not that it's not powerful, it's just the opportunity cost is too high. You usually need the extra Joker instead. I think it's quite unlikely you're going to pull it off at Gold Stake, so I think this does go in bait. It's an uncommon as well. I'd probably put it by Seance. It's bait that could potentially ruin the run if you pick it up and you can't get rid of it. Oops all sixes. This multiplies the odds of any probability triggering by 2. So your lucky cards now have a 2 in 5 chance of mult and a 2 in 15 chance of money. Similar stuff with the other cards. Again, this is a Joker that doesn't really do very much. If you have like the business card, if you have the reserved parking, if you have other probability-based cards like Bloodstone, this makes it go off a lot easier. Like 8 Ball, it means you actually get those effects happening. And that could be pretty good, but is it worth a Joker slot? Not a lot of the time. It's an uncommon as well, so you're not likely to find it very much. Bear in mind, like, consider this. You have a Space Joker, and you have dice. That means you still have a 50% chance of your played hand not leveling up. So, it's not always going to pay off. And that's 2 Jokers. I think it goes down here with the Space Joker in level of impact. Like, occasionally it's good, but you kind of need specific circumstances for it to be preferable over doing a more normal Gold Stakes build. Lucky Cat is probably a circumstance where it makes sense, because A, then you're getting more lucky card money, and you're getting more mult from the Lucky Cat, as well as the plus mult from the lucky cards. But again, bear in mind, even if you have 2 dice, it's a 4 in 5 chance of getting the plus mult and the lucky cards, which means you can't rely on it. It's great. Finding a dice is great for those 1 in 2 chances. Those probabilities don't tend to be that powerful. And the 1 in 4 probabilities still fail. It's very good with Bloodstone. I'll say that. It turns Bloodstone into a very good card, because then you're consistently getting value from flush heart flushes. But again, 2 uncommon jokers together is quite rare. And you've got to do additional deck fixing on top of that, compared to, say, Certificate and Hologram, or Certificate or Hologram and DNA. Even though it's a similarly rare sort of combo, or Astronomer and Constellation, you still have to do more work for this one. Merry Andy. So this guy gives you 3 extra discards and makes your hand size smaller. So on Gold Stake, this is annoying. It gives you 7 hand size. So you're probably not getting 5-card discards unless you're just doing pairs and high cards, in which case, why are you discarding everything? Maybe you're discarding everything for jokers that specifically benefit from discards, like mail-in rebate. It's not bad. 4 hands and 5 discards, which is the minimum you're going to have, usually when you start, is enough to get through most of your deck. This means you can consistently find your blue seals to scale up your Saturns for straights, maybe. Or find your gold cards, find your steel cards, find your gold seals. Pretty good if you're trying to build straight flushes, because you could usually find a straight flush with all those discards in hands. But then you're kind of screwed if the straight flush doesn't immediately win. I like it. The hand size is annoying. If you find a hand size voucher, it becomes a lot better. I think I'm going to put it next to the mail. The lower hand size isn't very good. But especially if you get a lot of purple seals as well, you can get a lot of value from it. We've got the straight consistency stuff now. So shortcut. This guy basically makes it so you can play straights with a gap between ranks. So you can play, say, Ace, Queen, 10, 8, 6. That's a straight. You don't have to have any gaps, or you can have all gaps. It doesn't matter. You still can't wrap around aces, though. This makes playing straights a lot more consistent. You still need a mix of cards in your deck, but it means you're usually going to be able to play a straight. You don't want to make lots of duplicates of the same card, because then you'll draw a lot of duplicates and you won't be able to play a straight. But this is a really good way of actually getting straights to pay out, because again, the lose condition on straights usually isn't points, it's consistency. So I think this is very good. I'm probably going to put it probably by the mine. Straights are a pretty good way of winning on Gold Stake. If you find this, it makes straights a good win condition, because you're probably not going to lose with it. You're probably not going to lose from not finding a straight with it. And Four Fingers goes a sort of similar sort of position. I don't think it's as good, because without the gaps, this lets you play, say, a King, Queen, Jack, 10 straight. You only need 4 cards for it to be a straight. It does the same with flushes. If you're playing this just for flush synergy, you're playing it wrong. Unless you've got a crazy amount of flush scaling, because it's not a lot of points. This is best for straights, and in particular, it's actually best for straight flushes, because you can make a straight flush by having 4 cards of the same suit and 4 cards of a straight, and they don't have to be the same 4 cards. You can have it be a mixture of the two types. So this means you can quite consistently play straight flushes off of just this guy, and if you combine it with shortcut, it means you can basically consistently play straight flushes, which is very powerful. The straight flush scaling is very, very strong on chips and mult. It has a very high base strength without any modification. And if you actually get Seance, you can get a lot of spectral cards. But then you've got a 3-joker uncommon combo. So good luck with that. Or Gold Stake. But this 2-card combo on its own is pretty strong. The shortcut and the fingers. Similar strength to hologram stuff. It doesn't immediately get you the win. It doesn't immediately make your cards better. But it's definitely enough to take a straight run to the win. I think they're both similar in terms of how much they enable straights. So I think they deserve to go together. So Smeared Joker. This guy makes it so that hearts and diamonds are the same suit, and spades and clubs are the same suit for flushes, for straight flushes, etc. This is the consistency card I'm not going to put next to them. Because if you're doing it just for flushes, it's not worth it. It's 1 joker slot just so you can play flushes. Flushes don't scale very well. We know this by now. It does mean you can trigger both Bloodstone and Rough Gem on red suited cards. And it means you can trigger Arrowhead and Onyx Agate on just clubs. So that's 50 chips and 8 mult per club. That's a lot. That's not bad. But again, that requires 3 uncommons. which means you're probably not going to get it on Gold Stake. You're probably still not getting to straight flushes just with Speared Joker. It's more likely, but you'd still need to combine it with Shortcut or Four Fingers, probably, to consistently get straight flushes. And unlike these two, I don't think it provides a lot of value in itself. It's only for straight flushes. Okay, then we've got the Drunkard. So the Drunkard just gives, it's a common, it just gives you 1 extra discard. That's pretty good. Obviously, it's good for purple seals. It's good for consistency in general. It's not overly strong. It's weak. It doesn't give you any money on its own. I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's probably A-tier worthy, because it's not always giving you value. A lot of the time, you're just going to have the extra discard and not use it. But I don't think it's bad. I think I would probably put it just above the variable Mult Jokers. I think that's a good spot for it. Juggler gives you +1 hand size. This is great for finding cards more consistently. It's great for adding more held in hand effects, which is potentially very powerful with gold cards, steel cards, shoot the moon, stuff like that. I think it's stronger than Drunkard in general. I would probably put it by the other utility guys up here, probably with the Face Joker. Very good if you have the technology for building a very large hand build, but it's like points from held in hand build, but it's not overly likely. But the extra consistency bonus in general is pretty good. But again, it's not actually just directly earning you more money for shops. So I think I would keep it in B tier. And then we have Troubadour. This is the upgraded Juggler that gives you +2 hand size, but it also removes an extra hand. So this one's costing you money, but it's giving you a lot more. It's giving you twice the value in terms of actual held in hand slots. If you have gold cards, it makes it worth it. If you have steel cards, mime shenanigans, it's great for that. Potentially very powerful. I think it's a similar level of power overall to the Juggler. You're not going to find it as often. It is better when you take it, but it is costing you $1 per round minimum. And you may also, depending on what build you're playing, you may also need that hand playing if you're trying to find something consistency-wise. It does give you more consistency, but is it more consistency than playing another hand? Sometimes it's not. A lot of the time it is. I think they're a similar level of power overall. For Gold Stake, where you're just trying to survive. Turtle Bean. This guy's crazy. This guy gives you +5 hand size, and it decreases by 1 per turn until it eats itself after 5 turns. +5 hand size is gigantic. You can find so many things with +5 hand size. This will probably single-handedly save you if you find it before the boss. We got this on Gold Stake quite early on, just because we found it and it was better than whatever else we had. I think we actually had a Troubadour at the time. We sold it for the Turtle Bean. The immediate benefit is so strong. Like, compared to the popcorn and the ice cream, with the relative benefits to malt and plus malt and chips, the plus hand size benefit is just absolutely gigantic. Yeah, very strong. And again, you can just sell it. Like, even if it's +1 hand size, it's still a Juggler on its last turn. It's just huge. But again, it's not going to win you the run on its own, unless you're doing a held in hand build. But it's such a large effect. I almost always pick it up just for the extra consistency for finding the hand I want. And that's ignoring all the held in hand effects. So I think it does deserve top of A tier. It's a premium food. Gets to hang with the bananas. And then last but not least is Splash. This guy just makes it so that every card that you play in your hand is played and it activates. So if you're playing a high card where it's just 1 card triggering and you've got 4 other junk cards you're trying to cycle through, they all get played as well. This is really good if you're doing like a high card build and you have a lot of lucky cards. And you're not trying to manipulate the suits or suits or the ranks or anything. Because you just get a lot of triggers that you wouldn't otherwise get. It's a chips joker, technically, I guess, because you're adding more chips, but it's not the main function, which is why I'm not going to put it with the other chips jokers. If you're building around more developed hands, it generally doesn't get a lot of use, which is why it's a common. But I do like it. It has some cases where it is handy. Just just being able to trigger those other effects, like if you have gold seals, like random gold seals, that's great. Because you get to play those when you wouldn't otherwise get to play them. You can just whack a glass card onto the end of your other hand. That's pretty strong. Is it worth a Joker slot a lot of the time? No, but it's not bad. I think it goes in B tier with these other guys. I think it probably goes... I think I'm probably going to put it just above Cartomancer. Not really great as a source of chips or like plasma deck stuff, but potentially very handy if you've constructed your deck in a specific way. And you can find it pretty reliably, so pretty useful. Lots of Jokers, lots of stuff to talk about on Gold Stake. Generally, the Jokers that I think I prioritize the most are commons that have a lot of impact, that can get you effects triggered or get you X-Molt. So Hanging Chad and Photograph are both very strong for this. Hanging Chad will give you re-triggers on gold seals, it will give you re-triggers on enhanced cards, it will give you re-triggers on additions, like if you've got a Polychrome card, activate that. Hanging Chad and a glass card on its own is a viable win condition if you get your scaling high enough. You do need specific plus Mult Jokers for it to work well, like some of these guys up here. It's just so powerful for common. And the Photograph gives you X-Molt. It gives you at least ×2 if you're playing a face card. You can get multiples of these. And again, if you've got a face card build where you're adding like the chips from say the Mult from say Smiley Face, or you've got high hand strength to begin with, it's a lot of value on its own for just a common. And you can get multiple copies of these pretty easily via the Showman. Similarly, Cavendish, if you get the Banana payoff, ×3 Mult, no conditions, is gigantic. And then we've got the very impactful X-Mult Jokers. Triboulet, Yorick, if you find them. Hologram I put here because I feel like it's the easiest to scale. There's so many ways to scale Hologram, not just from Jokers, but from standard packs, things like that as well. Very easy to get a very large number on this. If you find it early on, it basically wins on its own almost. The Brainstorm and the Blueprint are absolutely gigantic. Copying effect is so strong in this game. Very good even with just these commons, honestly. Can really turn a run around. You just need to have something good to copy. Trading Card, Vagabond, and Perkio I think are the strongest consistency tools. You can have... Trading Card just makes it very easy to get your interest money while also thinning your deck. There's very little opportunity cost. I think it's worth it even as a rental, which is quite rare for an economy Joker. Vagabond, you go to the black market, and it's just crazy amounts of tarot cards, crazy amounts of deck manipulation, very, very strong. And you can sell it and start earning interest again once you're done with all the tarot card stuff. Perkio, obviously the odds of finding it are low. I think it is the strongest Joker. You can do almost anything with it. Duplicating consumable cards, making negative copies, making money. Observatory stuff, if you're lucky. Yeah, Perkio's very strong. Wee Joker also gets to hang out up top because the amount of chips you get is so strong. Sometimes you don't need X-Mult. If you get the 2s and you're re-triggering them with Hack, and you've got the Fibonacci working on it as well, maybe the Onyx Agate or something, it's absolutely gigantic. I'm not going to run through all the tiers, but generally I prefer like the X-Mults that you can trigger the conditions for fairly easily. Consistency tools that have a large impact on the game. Tools that let you manipulate your deck to get the tools you need. You manipulate your hand strength, very important as well. Plus Mult Jokers that will save you early on and let you actually progress to the next ranks, the next antes are very important. We've got a couple of Chips Jokers up here as well. Generally, I think Chips Jokers are a bit more niche than the other Jokers, but Stuntman's 250 flat is so strong, it has to be an A tier. And they also get some rep just because they make Plasma Deck viable on Gold Stake, because otherwise, good luck with that. You're never going to find like the X-Mult you need to get that working consistently. At least not in my experience. And then we just got some run-of-the-mill economy Jokers that are almost always worth picking up if you have a free Joker slot, and you can just get rid of them. And then B tier is for some of the more situational stuff. X-Mult things that have minor payoffs that you can use to transition to better things, or like a rare late game payoff like Driver's License, the Baron, that sort of stuff. Driver's License is up here because I think it's easier than these other potential late game payoffs. And then just do run-of-the-mill stuff. low impact economy jokers, low impact consistency jokers. And then C tier is pretty much the stuff that I think is just never going to show up and it isn't impactful when it does show up. Or your common fodder that doesn't really do a lot once you get into the late game. Don't get me wrong, the plus Mult Jokers are pretty good early on, but because they lock you into the specific hands, I just don't prioritize them as highly as other similar flat plus Mult Jokers. Like, I would never, like, you only take them if you absolutely have to. That's my view of it. And then a loyalty card, they need to change this because it's very unsatisfying. But I can't quite say it's bait because it with burglar it will win you the game. And there are other ways to get it to win you the game. And then in D tier we have the bait, common cards that I don't think are worth getting, uncommons that don't do enough. Smeared Joker and Pareidolia are just combo pieces. The odds of pulling together combos in gold stakes are quite low. So a Joker that is just a combo piece that may be a rental or maybe an eternal or maybe perishable is just a bit too much variance. Your odds are you're not going to win with it. You're probably going to win with one of the other combo pieces and something else that's more consistent. And similarly, we have the Seance and the Idol down here. Idol, you're just not going to fix your whole deck to get this to work. And if you're not fixing your whole deck, then you might as well just play Photograph. And then Seance, if you do have the straight flush combo, Shortcut Fingers or Smeared Joker, then you can get a lot of spectral cards from this, which is obviously very impactful. But then you've got a 3 combo piece build, and that's not scoring you any points. So the odds of pulling that off a gold stake, I just don't think are very high. But yeah, that's actually my collected combined thoughts on all the Jokers in Balatro on gold stakes difficulty. That took a while. But yeah, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, if you feel they align with mine, if you've got some differing opinions. I'm sure some of you think that Blueprint should probably go ahead of Perkio. Maybe I put the Photograph too high. Maybe the Pants are too high. I feel like Pants is a bit of an outlier, but I don't know, I like the Pants. I think they usually get the job done. But yeah, thanks for watching. We have a load of Balatro runs on gold stakes and just the challenge runs in general for some white stakes action on the YouTube channel. We're going to come back to this game when it gets another update. Maybe I'll post some more gold stakes updates runs, but don't count on it. But like the video and let me know if you want to see more Balatro content. I'm interested to see what your thoughts are on that. Until then, I will see you all. This may be multiple videos. But take care and have a good 2025. See you later.
Whiskers sends thanks to the following Twitch subscribers and YouTube members: 999999999, Grey Area, Neo Deus Machina, Porcelet, Sweet Danger Kitty, and Uglavisk.